the 2026 season of Power Spike. Big changes abound. We have, for the second time in the history of the show, a 4-person pod going on. Myself, Yamato, back. But for the first time ever, joining us here on Power Spike, Nymera coming as well. Welcome, Nymera. Thanks for joining us, man.
Hey, well, thanks for having me. Who the heck's this guy? I'm just randomly on here. Yeah, it's cool to actually be on a show with you guys. I feel like there are a couple of people that are in the industry which I've kind of never quite crossed paths with, so it's nice to actually get some time in a call with you guys.
Yeah. No. I mean, you've put in so much time, had time on the LEC, obviously deep coverage of the LPL. Every time we go to Worlds, always putting the content out. You're a grinder. And appreciate you joining us here in the guest slot this week. Yamato, how are you, my brother, after getting back into the competitive field of battle?
I would say it feels good to be back. Obviously, the scoreline isn't the funnest one, but it's good to be back. It's always like one of those things. It's like you get some distance 1 year, and then you think it's like, oh, how's it going to be when I'm back? But, you put on the double-breasted suit, boom, you walk into the studio with your alligator shoes, and it feels like it was yesterday you were in the studio, So I feel like I'm in my element, when I'm in the LEC, so it feels good. And also excited to do the show, It's like Nymera I always respect the people that do all the LPL hours, It's like it's kind of like
crazy, kind of psychotic to do it all, honestly.
Yeah, it's that like what's the name, the Malcolm Gladwell book, Outliers. How the Beatles became as good as they are. They were just performing in Hamburg or whatever it was, 8 hours a day. That's what LPL is. It just churns out. The people that can spit on a mic. It's kind of like it's like rapping in the underground scene. Yeah. And then when you get to World, you talk about LPL players and nobody cares, and it just breaks your heart. Like, that's the cycle.
Yeah. Well, Yamato
he's a joker.
Jeez.
Dude.
Well, Yamato had a little bit of that experience cutting his teeth in the LPL broadcast for a little while, and then joining us here as a longtime member, back again.
I wanted to say, Yamato, the funny joke there is assuming that if you do the LPL, you got to Worlds.
Yeah,
that's actually the pathway. Like,
whoa, hang on, Yamato. We got the closest we ever got was we did one Worlds qualifying series.
That was technically Worlds. Yes,
technically we got onto one best of 5.
That was Worlds. Yeah. I remember that weekend. That was very funny.
Production getting like really stressed when they realized, oh, hang on, this isn't just our product. LOL Esports are in it. We're just like low budget production. How the heck are we going to pull this off to that standard?
Yeah, it's like, by the way, guys, global are watching. This is really important. This is Worlds. Like, lock in.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, all right, wicked. So yeah, I guess eventually you get to do Worlds, kind of. But yeah, no, happy to be back. It's always fun with the boys, and yeah, I'm looking forward to 26, man.
Well, 26 is here. The LoL Esports season has kicked off. We've had the 4 Fun Cups in the Kespa Cup. It's 4 Fun because the Bros didn't win this year. And a Demacia Cup. And the beginning of week 1 for LCK, LPL, and LEC. And that's where we're going to start. We had this segment when Dom was on here, right? He was doing his coaching for Cloud9. It was the Sack Tap. Well, now we've got the new and improved for at least the winter season, the Rat Tap, for insights on Los Ratones and how this week 1 went. Yamato is going to give us some insight. So the Rat Tap. Go ahead, Yamato.
Yo, first and foremost, you guys don't hold back, yeah? Because I'm going to do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu on everything you guys throw at me. Don't do the thing, Yamato, that you did with Dom, where you held back and you were afraid of him and you didn't say your opinion, Come at me. Let's have a little fight. Let's brawl a little bit. Currently, we're 0-3. I would like to say a lot to adjust to. LEC scrims, obviously the stage, and so forth. The patch also, massive change for us. We have the team. I think throughout the entire year last year we were very methodical. The slower games. Like the dragged out games was how they kind of managed to beat almost anybody, in the RL scene. And now everything's fast. It's very snappy, very engagey, very, very, bloody, unless, teams are not good at taking opportunities, which we see a lot in the LEC right now, I would say, in comparison to like LCK, where everyone's just like, the game is decided on a second crab spawn, But I'm happy with the fact that we showed like improvement. I think like that KC game, anyone who's looking at that game knew that, we had them by the balls, we just didn't squeeze, So and for the fact
that
that
squeeze the balls. That's the first thing you know about grabbing balls. You gotta squeeze.
you gotta squeeze if you want to do damage. It's like that's not what they teach you in self-defense.
That's what they teach you in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
So you gotta squeeze. You're not trying to arouse anybody. With a tickle or something. It's like,
that's a different type of Brazilian move.
Jesus, that comment was made by Digon. No, just I think the KC game was ours, and I think it would have felt amazing to just beat their ass, But I think they just out executed us in the team fights. But we did qualify to the game, meaning like the lane phase, the early game was good. It's just the execution in the team fight, they were sharper, and that's a challenge that we need to face for sure.
I think a couple things that jump out at me about the week that was for Los Ratones, the 0-0-0 reckless game. I think it was the 5th ever registered game for a pro player. Yeah, to have that happen. What was another one that jumped out? I think Boss kind of having. I can't tell if Boss is just I'm grading him on a lower scale because he's the one without the pro experience, or if he's he's doing well, like in situations.
He did. Baus had I think for all intents and purposes, Baus had a really good week. I think especially if you watched him last year and you kind of compare and contrast a bit, it's a lot of the same, but also I think in like some of the way that he was using Prio, I didn't really see any other top laners leave top like ever this week in the LEC. He was actually willing to go and get information, go and track jungle a little bit. The roam's also down to mid 2 or 3 times. I can't. Was it the KC game was when he actually managed to roam and kill Kiahu? I want to say was the game from last night. And just in general, I think even though you're still getting a lot of like Baus, like he's dying a bit randomly ISO on like sometimes not preferable timers, but most of the time that's the thing about Baus. When he does dumb shit, it happens to not be too much at the detriment of the rest of the team. And also I feel like at least my assessment is whenever he does die, more often than not, I will see Velia getting something on the other side of the map, or I'll see like an adjustment in play because it's like, okay, we know something's happened and normally Baus will die. It's one or more than one person around him. So that's okay. I feel like most of the week, Baus did fine. I think the KC game was the game where he had the best look. Not the KC Blue game. The KC game was the one where he had the best look of the 3. But yeah, it's always going to be hard to grade him because he's not an orthodox player. Like he doesn't. I said this all of last year covering him on the NLC. His brain doesn't work like the rest of us, and that's not a bad thing. That's just how Baus operates. So
we've
takes
actually
some time.
Invented a new kind of neurodivergence specifically.
Yes. It takes time to adjust to watching Baus play. We're playing checkers, he's playing chess all of the time. That's how you have to assess Baus.
Well, I would actually go beyond like I think this is like mild like praise of him. I actually think Baus was the best Rats player this week. Besides the 3rd game, I think was a little bit more rough. I think that the first 2 games, he was like the only person who was proactively making things happen in a way that wasn't like screwing over the team. I suppose now we get onto the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, because what the hell was happening in the early game of those first 2 games? Because I haven't seen the comms of it, but those two first early games, to me, it looked like it was a team of individuals trying to say, I can do this thing, rather than the team moving together to achieve something themselves. That often left Velia, who's the guy without the tier 1 experience alongside Baus. This is the guy without that. He's had his entire like early pro career streamed on Scrim, so everyone like knows information about him. And this poor guy is having to he is invading himself and making mistakes, but like no one is backing up Velia for like his big Jarvan plays early. And I think that's really what shut down this team. We knew that the early games were pretty rough from last year, but bringing that kind of style out again in LEC versus, actually LEC caliber junglers and stuff, which I think was a problem point even in scrims last year when they came up against good junglers last year. It felt like Velia just got blasted, but the team's not exactly doing much to support him on the map movements either. So what the hell's happening? Well, particularly those first 2 games, what the hell happened in the early games, you know?
I think, in general, a big challenge for us was just connecting in the game. Like, I think it was the same, like we played Rise in the first 2 games, but we just never found ways to have river control. I think in terms of us being like confident in situations where we need to fight, we kind of like gave space away. I think there was this moment in the KCB game where like we have both Prio and Arons on the tower and they're just trapping on the crab and we can retake and fight us 4, but we just kind of wanted to take the safe options. Like we take a plating and that's a safer option rather than being like, this is our space, let's fuck some shit up. And I think with how the game has become, it's like everything is about how you play around mid and how you connect with jungle and support to then play around mid, because ganking top and bot is like close to impossible. And at the same time, setting up recalls on bot has become a lot easier because you can just base on a cannon wave coming, and home guard is just stupid. So as an AD, you can figure out your conditions very easily. Like you can see in Korea, like they're playing only like ADs that are self-sufficient, right? It's like Koki, Varus, and then just push, and like, oh, my super wants to do something else and go mid, and grab a summoner. God bless him. I will just chill out. Like we even saw that game. I think it was like Genji versus KT, and it's like even like a ruler on Varus is like flashing on Talia mid just to burn his flash. So I think it's just a question of, the previous year it was a challenge always. It's like how they play through mid and how they connect, and they managed to always figure out the game by gaining information alone. Whether through proxies or just good side laning or good 2v2ing that forced the enemy to come out.
I think Baus having like high wave clear champions really helped that too. When they can insta delete a waves, they can go get the information alone. That's where I see that's where the mid and late game of the Rats actually comes to play, because they don't have to have that intricate, we're moving as a team to get information. It's one person clears, gets the info after, and then they've got the tools to work with.
So, but now it's like you gotta connect, and it's something that we worked on. We struggled with for sure in scrims, but I did feel like that improved. So it's like the isolated play. Like, for example, the first 2 games, it's like where Nemesis was playing Rise, he just didn't have any like support around him ever, and like in terms of jungle, in terms of how we managed the play. But it's nothing about like blaming someone in particular. It's just like the team play component here has been something we struggled with for sure.
I can respect not blaming anyone. Did you put belt to ass between game 2 and 3? For Velia specifically, because I'm not sure what your guys' read on the jungle is. For me, I feel like the best and most consistent thing is just to get 2 full clears out of the way. Ideally, right? Sometimes maybe if you can even do like a Raptor start, stay on the map to get like get a 9 camp clear if you can grab one of the crabs, obviously. Because I think being level 5 but on Dragon and like being almost like halfway to 6 on this timer is so useful. And when I looked at Velia's games, his the game 1 into Razork, in fairness, if he smites that red, Razork is hella homeless. He is so homeless because he did the Raptors into the blue Grump invade. He caught Razork off guard. There's a very solo good thing to do, and I respected it. And then he went and did, I want to say it was his blue buff, and then he was level 3. He went in and walked down and did the Razork's Raptors, and then met him on the red buff. And if he did get that would have been good. But then also the KC blue game, it was just a really weird, like time inefficient path where he like started wolves and he did Grump. He left red until the last thing that he did, so he walked past red to do Krugs and then went back up to red. And it's like Yukino's in the river first, even though you guys had Prio, I want to say in mid and bot, or at the very least, like it was like weird. It's like your first move, I'm not like air quotes Prio, if that makes sense, on the wave. But then the game 3 rolls around, the actual KC game. No more Jarvan. Velia, you're on Mundo full clear 2E. We even had like a bit of a meme in my chat where I was like, guys, will Velia do a full clear today? Is he gonna depart? Is he gonna do a normal clear? And I think that stability looked a lot nicer and did a lot more for, you said connecting mid and jungle together and then support after that. I kind of want to pick your brain a bit, whilst also kind of having the opportunity to do the blame Velia meme. what was your read on the jungle right now? Because I feel like there was a very big dichotomy between day 1 and 2 with Velia on like the more aggressive picks with obviously Rice's first move into what we saw into KC, where it felt like that draft and that setup to me was the LR that I'm a little bit more familiar with, where there's still ways to play the game agency wise. But then also you get to, if you just play a regular 15 minutes of League of Legends and there's no, volatility, that's where LR actually play like macro well and play the map well and actually respond to what's going on. And that was the best game that we got out of you guys.
I think always when you go into the stage matches, obviously like we played how we prepared, what we had success on. I think it's natural, right? And then you have to kind of assess this, like what is the pacing of the game is going to be. Obviously, it's like the drafts that we played in day 1 and 2 requires more precision and puts a lot more pressure on what you want to do. I do think like Velia had a brilliant plan in game 1 in terms of how he punished. That's like a part of the game. I don't think that's cheesy at all. He just played off of information. If he combos that red, suddenly like that Vi is completely out of the game, and it changes everything, right? In the same way, the Dr. Mundo, just like in that game, he was fully zen. He knew he gets upgraded smite over the crab. He's going to be 6 into 5, go for the invade with Oriana Prio, and he was like 30 CS ahead, which is obviously massive. I know people mentioned that like his clone stole his crab, but I don't think would have changed the invade because Wukong won't be 6 without the red. So I think that the gameplay pattern kind of remains the same. I think it's just one of those things is like you recognize, when we go on stage, this is a little bit different. And I think that in regards to obviously the scrims is the day-old thing. It's like things are a lot more bloody and, everyone's just fighting. And then in the LEC, it helped you a lot to just play compositions that, are happy to bide their time. And I think that in both Javan games, we had a lot of pressure on ourselves to connect in River and to fight, and we just didn't do this well enough. Because I do think that Javan, against the standard junglers that people play, like Zinzao, Wukong, Vi, he just gets kind of outskilled in the game, unless it's a very busy game. And that's something that you kind of have to force with the matchup that we had, and we just didn't do it well enough. And I do think, like, in the second one, like, the Wolf style was kind of goofy. But even there, like, you can recover. But then there's like the pressure of I need to do something, and I think being that position this early is not like the greatest position. It's like you already have something chasing you from minute 1, which is a very specific type of pressure. So game 3 was like a little bit more breathing room,
like chains off.
Yeah. Because like the big difference was also, I think, that actually Reckless actually got out on the map on game 3, and I think in the first 2 games, like Cranny and Reckless, like, I just don't think, I don't think they laned particularly well, and I don't think they ever got out of lane particularly well. Not really. And if you're trying to link up in the river, you have to have, someone moving from there.
I think that's capped, though.
Yeah.
Like, game 1, like, we were laning against Fnatic's bot lane. We had 30 CS ahead against their bot. We just don't, like, convert. And then, like, we're playing Bard Yunara into Lulu and Aphelios, and, like, this is not a matchup we should be winning, Like, we are even in the matchup, which is really fucking good. So I think game 2,
game 3 I agree with it, but
game 2 I agree. Game 2, I think Kokinami, they could have played the lane better for sure.
Yeah, but even then, if they do have that foothold, I just don't feel like there was that proactive movement, because basically, I feel like even in the first game against Fnatic, it felt like it really felt like there was reactive play, and then it obviously all came to a head around that top river fight when they jumped on Reckless, and then he jumps out as Velia jumps in. There's a disconnect there. It really didn't feel like that connective tissue between jungle support kind of determines any pro team, and I didn't feel the proactivity coming from the Reckless side of that equation. I feel like he was playing it quite safe.
I think it's like the main thing for us. I think in the first 2 games we were just kind of like not connecting. And then in game 3, we were connecting, but we didn't have like super sharp awareness of when we should throw our spells. It's like, we push this wave, and then if someone shows their face in this area, we should like throw everything at him and just see what happens. I think like a good comparison would be like the MKOI game they played against KC. Like they were behind against the Caitlyn Karma, right? And they had Bard Jarvan, and then they just slammed their ults on CD, on mid-wave, just to burn summoners, just to burn flashes. Because forcing Nash in a 5v5 isn't really real anymore. Like, Nash is too tanky, does too much damage, bleeds you out, right? Is a tough one. So I think
and like that summon or economy kind of thing, forcing things is like that's not really been an LEC specialty kind of ever.
Yeah,
we've never really done that. So it's good. At least it's good. Like as a region, we're starting to pick that up a bit more.
Yeah, MKOI got smacked around by Shifter somehow, but it's just B1s, I guess. But
they got absolutely
good
shift on
against KC. Yeah. No, Jesus Christ, what a name change, bro! Like, what is this brand change? Yeah, maybe there's a second
we'll dive into that
on that, but
yeah, we'll dive into that in a bit.
But
last bit, Yamato.
But to round off, like I'm with the progression and where we landed game 3. I think that was like a good standard, and I do think a lot of teams in the LEC will lose to us playing at this level. And I think coming into next week, we got GX, Shifters, and Team Heretics. I think every team is very beatable in BO1s. So with that being said, I'm happy that we managed to get better, even though the losses can be very heavy, and I'm proud of that. And I think that we improved and adjusted well based on what we had as feedback from, of course, the games. Yeah.
This week's Rat Tap. Thank you so much, Yamato, for the insights there. And I think the guys went in a little bit. Unfortunately,
they were
yeah, it was just taking.
It's the UK thing, you know, in it. Very polite.
Let's move on to our next section that we have here. It's Keeper Kick, and we're talking about the West because they've made lots of changes to the format. Obviously, LEC already kicked off with LEC Versus. LCS making some changes as well. No more best of ones was one of the big sticking points there. So Keeper Kick, the LEC format versus the LCS format. Let's get into it.
Swiss stage. What do we hate more?
Yeah, so that's what we're figuring out right now. Swiss stage, best of ones, best of threes, picking your opponents. How do you feel about all that? Let's start with you here, Nymera, since you're so eager to jump into it.
Okay. Best of threes, clearly better than best of ones in terms of fearless as well. Having a best of one in a fearless setting just means that you're playing a different game compared to the rest of the year. That's a disconnect. I hate that. However, Swiss stage with a small amount of teams is not a good Swiss stage. Swiss stage is meant for large groups of teams. You can kind of like thin out the crowd as it goes on. Like it's good for 1,000-person Pokemon events. It's good for nationwide events where you have lots of people playing. It's something that Yamato and I are fairly familiar with from the UK university esports scene. It's something which they do to kind of like do national-wide events. The smaller amount of teams you have for Swiss stage, the less it actually gives you the proper power of teams where things even out over, say, 6, 7, 8 rounds, something like that. This is a 3-round Swiss stage. Yeah, it's a 3-round Swiss stage. Shut up, Yamato. And now we're hearing, of course, like the visa issues are hitting a lot of LCS teams. The fact that something is going to affect maybe 6 teams across LCS, even affect only 1 round of the Swiss, that is a big issue. Because if you have like 1 team dropping down, 2 teams which should be much better. Because I think Zinni's not going to be there. I don't think for the first round. He might not even be there for a while. FBI.
It was said for the first split, which was kind of brutal.
And that's insane. But there are some players I'm not even sure will be there for the first match. If you've got teams which are losing players for the first match, the momentum which LCS are trying to build up is going to get absolutely slashed because Swiss does not allow quick recoveries that easily, especially if you start kind of like double dipping into teams losing players to visa issues and then can't play in the second round or first round.
Honestly, I'm just going to follow up. And there's 2 sides for me when it comes to the LEC format. The fact that it's BO1s on a competitive side is a benefit to us. You know, I think plain and simple. I think like the randomness element is good for us. We can also like, you know, strap in and focus on fewer strategies and just play something that replicates itself. Jumping into like fearless BO3s would be tougher for us for sure. Obviously, maybe it would be just as tough for some of the other teams, like because there's a lot of like, let's say, rookie rosters put together and rosters that need to figure this shit out. So maybe with the experience the guys had, maybe it would have been better. It's hard to of course think too much about that because I just had BO1s and I need to have a positive outlook on them as I compete. But I do agree from, you know, like I was even saying that Riot, if you want to do BO1s, just do it like, I'm called this format Suicide Fearless, where you play 11 BO1s And if you play champions once, you don't get to play them again for the rest of the season.
And then we're gonna get to like Quinn. We're gonna get like Karthus Bot.
you get to like you play champions once, and then you don't get. You have to save the strong champs for the tougher matchups, and then when you're there in week 4, you're scrambling, and then you warp your entire practice around like the champions that are available to you. And I feel like that would be a fun exercise.
This happened once in Vietnam where there was a tournament which was Tournament Fearless. I think it was in lockdown sometime. And like it was like the team which won wasn't technically the best team that year, but they just had more champions. Because it was just a whole tournament of you can't play it twice. And you were getting to some wild stuff in finals.
That sounds like fun. But either way, I think BO1s is a prank. Like I don't think League of Legends should be played in BO1s. It adds so much randomness. And I do think that a skill set that people should get tested on is, of course, how you adjust between games. I think that's a very fun part. But I understand the challenges, right? It's like you have 12 teams. How do you piece it together? It's like the same way LCS did the Swiss format. It's like, what else do you do to kind of fit it into the schedule to make time for first stand? It is strange that they started like 1 week later. And these visa issues, we just blame Trump. He's the problem, you know, like he's just messing up the region. These imports, they're taking our jobs.
Tariff on the LCK.
These North American prodigies, they are going to Europe. We lost Busio. You know, like it's just with the visa issues, it is problematic. I know, like Berserker, Zini, like these guys. I think that's just something you have to tank. I don't think Riot can do more on that side. Just based on the time frame that they have to work with, I do think like a Swiss style format does make sense. Is it double elimination in playoffs later? Is that what it is? Or is it single elim?
It's still single elim.
Ooh, all right, then it's low key.
Yeah.
Cooked.
So then Swiss. So you still have the same issues with Swiss. Doesn't really give you the right seeding.
No, sorry, I'm wrong. It's Swiss moves into a top 6 double elimination best of 5. Okay. So it does move to double.
I have to say though, like. It would matter more. It wouldn't. For this split, it matters less because it's only one team going to first stand anyway. If it were multiple, you know, if you have to decide like your top 3 or whatever, like in a Worlds thing, that's when the seeding coming out of regular season needs to be a lot more tight. But at least it's, you know, less teams going forward, so it matters less. Because realistically, a team's going to have to beat all the other best teams anyway. So
yeah. Well, to answer the question, let's kick the BO1s, bro. Fuck them.
Yeah. Yamato, you normally are Mr. Agree with all the good points, but I am saving you for last. What you got?
Now you have to disagree. So
best of ones have grown on me, guys. In the way, look, do you guys
like
remember
a fungus does?
The way like a tumor.
Yeah. Look, wait. Look, you know, like the double elimination, single elimination discourse around Worlds top 8, right?
Yep.
Every series matters. No second chances. And I figured it out. Riot are just applying this to the LEC, to the regular season. Best of ones.
Favoritism.
Listen, best of ones, no second chances. You show up on the day and you play like shit. That's it. You can't get that game back. It's the ultimate stakes, game to game. Game to game, that's it. You can't get higher stakes than best of ones.
You can see the light leaving his eyes as he's saying this.
When you really think about it, that's just the way that, you know, it's the ultimate dopamine like generator. Best of ones, that's it. Yeah, we're kicking best of ones like it's a Roberto Carlos free kick, man. Like, just get the shit out of here. It's really evil. And when you compare, like, I think what makes it worse in this keep or kick specifically is just when you compare how much nicer in not only directly the LCS format is in terms of the amount of games you get, the potential quality through like Swiss and always having best ofs, comparing 26 LCS to 25 LCS as well. Like, it's just a double whammy win where the last year's format was fucking horrible for I don't think it was called lock-in, but we'll just call it like the lock-in part of the year. Where I can't even. They had 3 different formats in 3 splits. Like, I can't even remember which one it was. Like, it was just all a horror.
But the first one, like, was if you lost 2 best of 3s, you're out of the season, and then single elimination.
You're just gone.
You're just
Single
gone.
elim double
Dude.
3.
It's
Like,
out, fam.
it was just it was just the most wretched thing you could see. So yeah, I think the fact that LCS has like doubled up, fixed the first part of the year, and then we have best of ones in the LEC. It's just such a no-brainer, and it almost feels like, I don't know how to describe it. Like, your practice is almost for like the top LEC teams. Does it just like almost get worse in some ways? Like, just because your stage games are like air quotes limited in a way where it's like it's only best of ones. You don't even get to practice fearless on stage. You know, I feel like some of that added experience is also kind of additionally lost in some ways. I don't think it will be like a too big of a deal, but it's still something that I think you should in some ways consider. So yeah, I don't know. We're keeping the LCS format.
Yeah. Yeah, like, I hate small teams Swiss, but even then, best of ones is not real League of Legends. So actually, LCS is actually playing real League of Legends in a series, so it's still better just by the fact that it doesn't have best of ones.
It was called Split 1. It was just called Split 1. Split 2 had the different name. They had the positioning phase of the round robin, which kind of didn't matter until you got to the group phase, and then Split 3 had pick and play phase, which then led to the pick and play progression based off of how many wins that you had. So into the elimination phase. So LCS back, Swiss straight up. I think the biggest thing that I like, because I don't, I try to think of it from the Riot product point of view every now and then, and also the fan point of view. You get to see all the teams. Like, you get to see all the teams on a day if it is best of ones. And that is something that the Riot has considered in the past. But I think what really helps now is that even in the Swiss days, you're not going to like get to see all the teams in a single day. You're getting rid of the bad teams. Like, the bad teams are eliminated and out. We're seeing that now happen with LPL. We're having like a softer version of it in the LCK when it comes to playoff time. But you get the relegation of like, okay, you guys get to play in the kiddie pool while, T1, KT, Gen G, they're going to play in the big boy pool. I like that. And I like that you're trimming that fat in the LCS now that there are less teams there and you don't have to watch bad League of Legends over and over again. And I don't want to hear that, we're not getting enough stage experience on there when this format is giving you more matches as a bottom team than what you get in LEC. So
you want
that
to
is
know
the
how
thing
long OMG missed out? They've played their first series again, like in the last couple of days. You want to know how much time it was between that series and the last one they played last year?
Wasn't it like
months.
I was going to say 5 months.
Was it in June? Yeah, like
it was
right
in
before.
July. Yeah. They got eliminated in Split 2 LPL in July, and they played like this week. That's how long they were out for. So if you're like bottom tier, bottom 2, you are just done in LPL. So it is very much like a softer version. I personally think that's like a little too far. 7 months.
That's not true. I remember Moham having to play against OMG Academy, right? Didn't he have to play
LDL
down in the other?
Because the backup plan after all that bullshit happened was, wait, guys, actually, it's not healthy that we don't play for 7 months. I think we might have to play in Academy.
KC's playing KC Blue, right? They were playing for their starting jobs. We'll dive into that in just a little bit as well. Let us know what you think in the comments. LEC versus LCS formats. As a viewer, do you enjoy covering one weekend and being able to see all the teams play? You get some of the hype matchups, or do you like the competitive format a little bit more, knowing that you get the cream of the crop?
Just whack LR on the first game of it. Just apply the NLC logic. This is, I know, like tier 2, we don't like normally power spike tier 1. In the NLC, they've just whacked 4Sense team because they know that's where the viewership is on the start of every day. So that the lingering viewers will just like up the viewership, like the average concurrent viewership throughout the rest of the day. Just put LR on game 1 every single day.
Hang on, I thought the analytics was better to put them in the middle, but
that's what I thought too. But like, listen, whoever's making the decisions down there is making those decisions. So do that. Just do that. First three games each day of LEC. LR, MKOI, KC, KCB. If if they happen to be, call it a day. Right. The rest of the games don't matter.
If you have the Yamato takes a shot at NLC on your bingo card, you can go ahead and mark that one off.
Dude, there's
let us know in the comments
work there too.
Let us know in the comments below what you think. Not last year. The stories are here. All right.
Yeah.
That does it for Keeper Kick. Now, time to remind you about our friends over at Raycon. This message is sponsored by Raycon. Now that the holidays are over, it's the perfect time to upgrade your gear for the new year. I've been using Raycon's Everyday Earbuds Classic, and they're amazing. Super clear sound and easy to wear all day for music, podcast, or calls. They block out distractions while still feeling comfortable, making them ideal for everyday use. And right now, Raycon is ringing in the new year with the sale, so grab them while you can. The Everyday Earbuds Classics are loaded with upgrades perfect for tackling your 2026 goals, active noise cancellation, multi-point connectivity, so you can pair two devices at once, and an ergonomic fit that actually stays put no matter what you're doing. You've heard me multiple times talk about I've bought multiple different versions of it because I've accidentally lost it. You know, at first we just had the black, then I think I had the rose gold, then the cool mint. So I'm telling you, it is an extension of your personality. It's more than just having earbuds. They also come packed with technology like the quick charge feature. 10 minutes gives you 90 minutes of playtime, plus 32 hours of battery life in the case. And then as someone that has to ride a lot of public transportation, awareness mode is perfect for when I'm walking around or traveling around within Seoul, so I can stay tuned to what's happening around me without missing a beat. 3 million customers already love Raycons, and they come with a 30-day happiness guarantee. So if you don't love them, returns are easy, so you have nothing to lose. Head on over to buyraycon.com/powerspike to get 20% off site-wide. The Everyday Earbuds Classics are here to help you crush your New Year goals. Raycon is having the site-wide sale this January. That's buyraycon.com/powerspike to get 20% off site wide. Thanks to our friends over at Raycon. Again, can't tell you enough how much I use them all the time at the gym, over at work. It is great. Thanks to our friends
Dion,
over at Raycon.
I just wanted to add, I saw Yamato throwing back, like twerking for 32 hours with these on, and they just stayed on for 32 hours straight, and he's just blasting music. And I am very impressed with the Raycon performance. So shout out to
we call that the Raz
Raycon.
special, yeah.
Yeah. I was about to say, like, you know, I learned a lot from my brother Raz. He really helped me out with making sure we could keep the Raycon sponsorship going with the music.
Good sell there, Jamada. What the fuck was that? All right. Thanks to our friends over at Raycon. Let's get into it. That was a pretty fraudulent sell there at the end. You know, it seemed like it could have been an alley-oop, but it was just an alley-oops. But that's not the only fraudulent thing that happened in the past week. Let's get into our top teams who are a little fraudulent, or top players that were a little fraudulent in this week's Fraud Alert. I gave the guys the homework to bring a team or a player that was fraudulent, and let's see who they picked, and we'll rate them how fraudulent. Let's get into it. This week's Fraud Alert. All right, Jamada, I saved you for last time. You get to go first this time. Who is your fraudulency, and what is the scale that you're giving them out of 10?
I have a bit of an interesting perspective here. I'm gonna whack down HLE, but the reason why I'm whacking down HLE
here it goes
is actually because
here come the fans.
I don't think
they're coming.
No, they're coming. They're coming because they agree. I don't think
horde is coming.
I don't think they were that fraudulent. Like, hear me out, right?
Okay.
I just feel like T1 are a better team than them. I think that's just how that is. In my opinion, like we got. No, we'll get there. We'll get there. I think as far as the T1 series is concerned, I think T1 is just a better team than them. We had more than enough tape in Kespa as well to kind of get a bit of a grips on how that series could go. And I feel like in that best of, we got a lot of, especially from my opinion, Kanavi, of like what makes Kanavi a good jungler and what makes Kanavi a bad jungler. All in the space of 3 games in that series, where it always feels like if he can't play off a player, If he doesn't have like it's almost like Sean Dyche. Like if you don't have route one, like that's it. I don't know. His mind just explodes. At times, and this was one of those times where for me it felt like, for his perspective, it did explode, and then the rest of the map just kind of ended up getting blasted. Like I don't really feel like there was much reprieve for HLE after game one, and even when you look at the game one, which is the one that they did end up winning, it didn't necessarily feel like T1 were ever out of that game. Even on the, I want to say they had Baron HLE on this push, the top push where T1 managed to sweep them. I think it was a clean ace, or maybe it was like a 5-for-1 or something. I remember sitting there watching the game and going, guys, I don't know, like I've seen T1 come back from positions which are significantly worse than this. And then I want to say HLE elected to dive the tier 3, and then they just got completely turned on. And then as for the rest of the series, again, the game one was like the bad Kanavi game. I think that was the Silas and Aurora mid lane matchup where they tried to skirmish over the second rotation of what do you call it? Oh no, they tried to skirmish over the second rotation of Raptors, and then the game just got ran in their face after that. So yeah, I don't know. I feel a lot for me that Kanavi will just need stable games in situations like that, and we didn't really get that for him. And then game 3, they just got ran over. Now the lawyering begins. As for the Nongshim series, look, okay.
We are listening intently. Go on.
Look. Game 1, it's
turning into a chicken, brother.
No, look, game 1, it's high key unforgivable. It's high key unforgivable. I can't remember what the peak of that gold lead was, but game state wise, Kanavi was walking around like Thanos with all of the stones in the gauntlet. It was outrageous. That might have been like the strongest individual Aatrox I think I've seen in any competition since Aatrox has been a jungler again. Yeah, they just fucked up, man. I don't know what to say, and they died on a bad timer 30 minutes into the game. They were having fun. You could see it. Like, you could actively see in HLE's mind. No, in HLE's mind, you could see it got to a point where they were just like, the game is over. We can die like 15 times in a row, and it doesn't matter. But what they actually didn't realize was they couldn't die 15 times in a row. They could only die 12, right? So they didn't know where the line was. Much like that one Charlie Murphy.
You're boiling this down to a maths test?
Yes, I am. It was a toe line stepping test. They stepped over the line.
We have Sigmund Freud here. He's psychoanalyzing them, saying they're having fun, but they had a little bit too much fun. You can see it on how they're positioning on the chair. Yes. And how they're smiling when they're ending.
They were like diving tier 2. They were like diving tier 2 at like 18 minutes in mid, and then they just didn't give a fuck. Game 2 though, that was a lot more unforgivable. And I'm not gonna lie, they got checked. Like, it reminded me a lot of almost in a way, if you remember, not like, well, they were trying to win this series, the Genji HLE series to qualify to MSI. It started to get to a point inside of the microcosm of that game, you could tell that they were tilted. Like, after the first 2 plays don't go their way, like, it was just immediately, you just knew, oh my god, HLE are getting 2-0 today. Like, there was no way they were coming back. So yeah, I think whilst very embarrassing to get 2-0'd by Nongshim, especially because of how game 1 was, I want to say Sponge was, Digon, you can probably correct me because you're more likely to remember. Was he 0-6 when he got that quadra kill on Nash in game 1?
He was. I don't remember 0-6. That was the day off, but I just remember the fight itself. I'm looking it up now.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was like 6 or he was the cursed number of deaths, and he ended up getting a quadra kill. The game 2 though, they just got checked on every objective.
It was 0-7.
It was 0-7. Yeah, like they just got checked on every objective, man. And again, I think there's one thing for sure with like a lot of the core of this HLE lineup that we got to see from last year is that if things don't go their way, like at a certain point, especially if they've kind of just had a bit of a traumatic event prior to the new set of events going wrong, they break. And I don't think that gets better with Kanavi. Like, Kanavi is definitely very tilt liable.
Yeah,
he's very tilt liable. He's not the kind of player that's gonna like hold fast in a bad game state. It's like the meme, you know. It's like what is it? Where it's like when both teams are even. You know, Kanavi feels like he's at a great advantage, so he continues to try and press the lead, and so on and so forth.
Are they frauds or not, Yamata? Damn it! Like you're arguing against yourself. Why?
Yeah,
come on, man.
They're not frauds. They're not frauds. I think it's just a very bad.
Is that what the segment is called?
What's
Who's
the
not
point of the segment?
I know, but
this is my first time on. You're misleading me.
Shit on some teams. I want to offer a different perspective on this specific fraud alert. I don't actually think they're that bad. I think they'll bounce back. This is just a very bad week. Their next week is Bro and the DN Supers.
Yeah,
they're gonna come back in angry this week. I'm giving them like a 2.5, a 3 on the fraudulency scale, mostly because of the Nongshim game. Mostly because of the game one in the Nongshim game. That was bad. That was bad. Like that was a big show of a lack of discipline.
I mean, that just felt like that felt like the worst ending to the game, other than the Shifters, right? It was the Shifters GX game.
Yeah,
like those were the two terrible endings this week. But whatever. Okay, 2.5. What'd you say? 3? That's
3.
Crazy. That's crazy. Low.
I think they're a little more than that, Yamada.
Nope, they're fine.
Nymera.
Well, I'll hand it over to you. Yamato, what is your rating? And Nymera, what's your rating for the fraudulency for what? That for Hanwha Life this week, and then
rate Hanwha Life or Yamato? Like how we.
Honestly, I kind of like rating the person.
Okay. Oh, great. Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So Yamata,
10 out of 5.
Bro said, "Bro, it's only 1 week. It's only been 1 week of play. That's for everyone. Like that's what we're going off Yamata. So he's arguing against himself. I'll give Yamata like a 4 out of 10. Yeah, okay. in terms of and then HLE. Honestly, like. The way they play is ass, because at least I had the expectation that this patch should be good for them. I thought Zeus would be the GOAT of this patch, you know? And I just had way higher expectations of him. And I think for Gumayushi, there's an adjustment period, you know? He's not playing with a player that can play the range supports like the GOAT, you know? So he has like this melee support Andy, and I think HLE will have like a period where they need to figure some shit out, because they're not good at those combos. And Kanawe is still doing the Lila thing. Like, there's not a single fight
that brother's speaking fluent Mandarin in the FPK now, yeah.
And it's like, this is not Zeka's month yet. Like we need to look at the star signs where the moon is at, and then there's going to be 1 month in the year where Zeka's good. It's a tough time for HLE. Like considering the roster power of this, I had high expectations. I think they're a good fraud call out, but I don't even know if that's what Yamada did. He's defending them.
No, I'm defending them. Yeah, no, fraudulency is not there yet for me.
I think they're pretty fraudulent right now. Look, the melee support thing, I get it. Doesn't excuse Gumayushi charging an arrow in front of an ult that's level 1, losing his flash, giving the enemy team like free push of lane, giving the free reset, which then leads to the dive, which kills them versus Nongshim game 2. That's just a straight up individual mistake. And he's not even the player making the worst individual mistakes on the team. Like Zeka, what the hell happens? You know, this guy, we know that Zeka and Delight, particularly on this team, are big flippers. They've added another one in Kanavi as well. I think this team is really fraudulent right now, but just because of the nature of the team, they'll probably be fine in like 2 weeks. They never stay fraudulent for forever. It's just for me, the more interesting question is how long will they remain fraudulent? Because for me, out of 10, they're like a solid like 6 right now because of individual plays just being so incoherent all over the place. Yamato, you're all right, but I think you argue it against yourself. So yeah, work on it.
All right, Nymera, your turn to show us how it's done then. Who is your fraudulent candidate this week?
Okay, I'm going to head over to an LPL team, and in my head, I'm still deciding between 2. I think, look, I could talk about Weibo, but I think people expect them to be somewhat fraudulent, so I feel like it doesn't fit the spirit of the question. So I'm going to talk about Anyone's Legend, a team which everyone's very familiar with from last year. They've started 2-2, and even in their victories, they've had some good moments, but their losses are really quite worrying, because Anyone's Legend are top team, and they're the one team in the LPL at the top end which has stuck together as a 5-man roster. Yes, they lost Tabe, they lost their coach, who's a huge part of pretty much any team he's a part of, but they came in and they lost to BLG, who are just coming together. That's somewhat forgivable. They lost to JDG, who we expect to be a team that scales up over time and eventually becomes a good top 3 team. They also have Tabe as that coach now, but they've come in and AL completely got rattled in the early game. The early game from Anyone's Legend, a place where you'd expect a 5-man roster to stick together with Tarzan and Kael on their roster, like the best jungle support in the LPL, to be really, really solid. That wasn't the case. Junja just ran them through in the early game, and while there have been other problems with him, I expected so much better from Anyone's Legend. So in the perspective of them being across the average of 25, the best LPL team, if you look through every split, they were the one which were most consistently competing for the top. Like, I expected so much more for them because the other top teams have all changed. You're meant to be coming in with a better head of steam. You're the one that's meant to be better right now. And they've really given me a lot of room for pause. Like, there was a world in which things went even worse than, honestly, in these first few weeks. I think that the jungle support hasn't been firing on all cylinders. Tarzan had just an awful Kiana game the other day. Kael is suffering from the fact that if he loses lane with Hope, who's been a bit iffy at points too, some great games, but the laning phase has been all over the place, he's then locked into bot lane. He can't move out onto the map, so that kind of sets them behind in a macro sense. And a worry that was there for the entirety of the year last year and just wasn't abused too consistently is that Flandra's individual lane has just been awful. Like, you give him a stable matchup and that somewhat covers it, but you can't do that for forever. Like, he's falling behind several thousand gold to certain top laners, and that is just not acceptable once it comes up to a certain top level of play, especially right now with the patch being, compared to last year, I think you can build an individual top lane lead a lot more than you could last year. So Flandra is actually actively becoming a lost condition again, despite the fact that I thought he was one of the best top laners at Worlds, and he was very good at kind of not giving too much up and then actually making an impact on the map. So Anyone's Legend, I expected them to be best team in LPL, at least at the start, and then the other teams would catch up to them. They've been clearly a level below that. They lost to the other quote-unquote top 3 teams in the league, and the way that they lost really worries me. So they're my frauds of the LPL right now.
We definitely spent time on this show talking about Flandre not getting punished as much as he should, but yeah. I like that now there's a bigger eye to that. Yamato, let's start with you. How do you rate this one? It was 6 out of 10, was it, Nymera?
Well, that was... Yeah, you know what? I'm going to give them that again, because like they did actually team fight pretty well in the late game. They did recover some series. You can see there's some stuff there. It's just that the flaws which I've seen have put them down. We'll say about a 6 out of 10. Yeah.
All right. Go ahead, Yamato.
I love the coherence of the message. He didn't like battle against himself, too much, Also, I have no image of Nymera twerking for 32 hours with the Raycons on, so that also helps.
I don't really have much to throw back there, I'm sorry.
Why do you have an image of me twerking for 32 hours? Can we talk about that?
That's what I said during the Raycon segment, that they stayed on your ears while you were twerking with them for 32 hours.
That was the Raz point. That's no wonder you did. No wonder you like missed the alley oop. You just didn't get it.
I didn't mean Raz at all. I was talking to Jamada, bro. I was surprised that you didn't get offended when I said
out of this. This is not our conversation between those two.
Nevertheless, I was surprised you didn't get offended, but it's just the message didn't translate. All good. Nymera, I think coherent. I also low key kind of agree. I feel like the Tabe, the Tabe thing. You lose Tabe, but AL was already kind of slumping throughout the entire last year. I feel like a lot of signs of that are like coming back. You get to the World Championship, things kind of shift up. You're in a different environment, and then you get back, and I feel like those old issues are kind of haunting them. I feel like there's a lot of similarities there in terms of the problems we saw during their pain points, and that LPL group ascent is kind of stacked. Still respect to AL for beating IG. It is what it is. Like beating IG is always, anyone that does it, I applaud them. IG are the goats. 9 out of 10. Bro. That's my score.
Damn, I'm flattered.
Just to fuck with Jamara. That's I've decided.
We got an understanding. We got an understanding.
All power spike just fuck with me. I'm the victim. All right, cool. You know what though? With AO, I think a lot of it for me is I think they need to find some identity through what they want to play bot. I think that's been a bit of a big thing for them, especially because I feel like for me right now, Hope's best champ by far is Varus, and obviously that's something that's getting banned out most series, almost from start to finish. And if he's not on that, he looks like a completely different player. So I think they need to try and reevaluate what their draft strategy is game to game with bot. and also with Kyle, like very like similar-ish. I always like Kyle when he's on like things that just make the game quicker. Like if he can push the game forward with plays, then I think AL look a lot better. And then it also just kind of provides space for Tarzan, right? To do whatever he needs to do on his given champion, because we know Tarzan is very talented. He's very multifaceted. He's been playing everything under the sun since last year. But I think a lot of that freedom for AL, I think, has to come through bot. And if Shanks can, try and facilitate that individually, the earlier the better, but sometimes not. But if he does, it's good. So far, though, I think their objective setups have been a bit weird. The way that they kind of approach fights has just been off. Like to me, AL normally the best versions of AL are when they just snap engage, where they just they will find the smallest crack in the window and they'll just go. But I haven't really seen a lot of that, or if they have tried to do that, it's just looked off.
They had one moment, there was a game versus JDG. They managed to pull that off because Vampire had a nightmare on the board, and they used his mistakes to get back into the game.
Yeah, I mean, I love Tabe. How the fuck did he end up putting Vampire on Bard, bro? It wasn't even like Bard was inherently bad for the game. It was a great pick for the game. A Vampire, though. All I'll say is it's a good thing. It's a good thing that Tabe is that guy's coach, because he will get better. Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of... What's going to make me weight this a bit higher is the JDG series, because I think allowing Xiaoshu, as good as I think that guy is now, to split your cheeks open 3 games in a row is not good. It's not good.
That is some very vivid imagery, Yamato.
I'm going to go...
Well, he's the twerker.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to go 8 out of 10 for this one. Or 7.5 out of 10. I think that they had very reasonable ways to have come out of this opening stretch of games 4-0. They had all of the agency and control to not lose all of their series. Especially was it the game 3 of BLG? They just died on the base push, and then it was just flipped, and then they just lost. It was really, really, really silly. They could very easily be 4-0, but they are the creators of their own destruction.
All right, Yamato, who you got here for us in our fraud alert for week 1?
Honestly, I would just... I think the level of the LEC, obviously it sounds crazy. I'm coming off of a 0-3, so I come across as a salty pig.
Are you
whatever,
included in that?
I think it's
I hope so.
In terms of where we're at, right? It's BO1s, there's a lot of volatility, but looking at there's some LEC games where there's 10k gold lead throws. Obviously, there's an adjustment period. We're working off of 1 week of information, and I'm sure things will get a lot better. But I'm looking at some of the wins that people got and people acquired, and how stiff kind of the league feels in comparison to watching
Everywhere.
the LPL. Maybe I need NALCS to give me like a balance, and I watch NALCS and then suddenly wow, LEC just magnifique,
Oh, that wasn't the bottom of the barrel. It goes a little deeper.
Yeah, it's just, I'm saying this strictly as a point of exercise. If I want to look at quality of play, then I think you instantly lean into other things. I thought that G2 would do a lot better on the opening week. I had high expectation on them. I even had a high expectation of KC. We lost against KC. Fair play. It's not about that. I just had high expectation on some of the top teams. And then finally, I was hyped about MCOY, and then you get giga stomped by shifters. And sure, there's draft adjustments, it's BO1, it can be very poisonous, but that's kind of what we're working off of. I just had, let's say, high expectations of what the overall LSE level would be. And obviously, that includes us, in the first 2 games. And the third one, I think, was very competitive. Because even in that second game, against KCB, that's the ERL matchup, right? We had comeback angles. I think against Fnatic 2, we dominated the early game. We just didn't execute. And I do think that the LEC's level is kind of shaky right now, because everyone's going to always pull the context. If we get into first stand, from where I'm standing, there's it's going to be NA versus EU, fighting for some kind of trophy, and then that is fake, and then they're sitting there and thanking God that Hongkyu and the gang went to went to China, so there's no big dog to to thump on you from a region that is not Korea and LPL.
Season, actually, the real food is the LCS. Like Talon imploding, CFO's gone. The hell's happened to the region, man?
Yeah. So it's like currently, from where I'm standing, I was hoping for more from the LEC, and I don't feel like there's like a clear front runner for who's dominating. I had high expectation with G2, high expectation of KC, and MKOI too after what they started, because I think those three teams are like the big dogs, and I think they can definitely, like, they should level up and show a higher standard for others to of course achieve. Because now currently, from my perspective too, like I feel, coming into any BO1, coming into next week, it's like you can take a game off of everybody based on what people have shown. That's my state of mind.
Last season in Winter LEC, Fnatic were the best team in the regular season, 8-1. So did drop a game against MKOI, but generally was pretty dominant. And I understand, I kind of feel what you're saying there, where everyone beat everyone. There are no undefeated teams after the first week, after 3 matches, and that's usually not normal and not indicative of like a dominant leader for the LEC, which has normally been G2, normally been Fnatic, and then surprisingly after first stand or like into first stand was KC. But yeah, I feel you on that one. What do you think, Yamato?
Yeah, I think the worst part was just like the games also went really long. Like teams really can't close out leads in the LEC right now, it feels like, on average. Because I don't, like, there were close games, but a lot of these games we're talking about, teams are walking around with 4K, 5K gold leads, and it's like they can't open the base for Baron Siege, or they're just not getting anything off the map. And you could really you could throw a dartboard, and the chances that it lands on a team that did this week is very high. So, I for me, there's not really much to add. Like, the LEC just feels really weak. Maybe, yes, if we watch the LCS, life feels good again. You know, maybe it's the year of EU over NA. But I feel like the only team actually counters this. The only team that I feel like had a really clear vision of how they wanted to play the game this week, start to finish, was Na'Vi. And I thought that was a very, very big surprise for me. Especially, you know, I'm the resident Rogue hater. Like, spiritually, to me, this is still technically Rogue for like the immediate future. We'll see how long that lasts. Because at the end of the day, Rogue would have never had an 8,000 gold lead against Fnatic to throw in the first place. Right?
Come on, Yamato. Lexington can't hurt you. He's gone.
Last can't hurt me. He's gone.
He's still under contract on Na'Vi, so
yeah. Who
maybe
knows?
he can hurt you.
maybe he spawns back in. Who knows? But yeah, I really. But yeah, no, I really liked how Na'Vi played. I think Na'Vi were like the most coherent team, weirdly enough, of this week. And even in the game that they dropped to Fnatic, it was like, I credit Fnatic for coming back as much as I do like Na'Vi for fucking up their Baron start and like the turn being bad and all of that led into the events that then made them end up losing that game. So yeah, I think they're the only counter to that point. But otherwise, yeah, the general level is really low. I think fraudulency is, I don't know, like if you expected this, then it's low. If you didn't expect it to be this bad, it's high, right? I'm gonna smack my stick right in the middle. I'm gonna say 5. Like, it's not as bad as I thought the play would be, but I'm also not shocked. Yeah. Seeing like the slower pace. I think the best ones also kind of play into it for some teams, where it's like, you know, there is no getting a game back in a best of one, right? Like, you have to play the game to not lose, and I think that seemed to be the mentality of a lot of teams coming into their matchups this week in LEC.
I mean, Shifters were one oopsie away from being 3-0. So,
true.
Like, just throwing that one out there.
You want to join the shift? Do you want to join? I want to join the shift so bad, guys.
You want to become a reptile and shift your colors in the wild and go for world domination?
What was the book called?
What?
Animorphs. Any animorphs?
That will like No, I'm thinking of Metamorphosis by Kafka, which is a very, very different. Yeah, I want to become a cockroach. Yeah, I think one thing which I'd add on, because look, I agree. I think that we talked about this in context of the Rats, right? But I think just in general, the league has not been great at effective proactivity. There's always been a problem with LEC. I'm just disappointed to see it continue, especially when we've got, you know, teams which have become tried to become better at that, like MKOI I thought were looking better at that at points. The other thing which I throw in is that EU's drafting has been really suspect to me too. I just can't believe that we're getting multiple best of ones where Jace Jungle is getting through, which I think is probably the strongest champion on the patch. I really hate the Corki into Yunara prio. I mean, there's a reason why LCK has moved on from that, and it's gone towards basically a set of maybe 3 champions. The Corki's kind of like the 4th or 5th pick if you kind of get down to that level, where you either get like Aphelios, Poke, Varus, or Misfortune, which can actually control the champion. Aphelios can out DPS her, basically the only AD carry in the game which can do that right now. Or you have 2 champions which can either zone her out of a fight or just completely obliterate her from a safe distance with Varus arrows or the Misfortune ultimate. So that's just been really perplexing to me, alongside some of these power picks kind of getting through. Like, to me, it was absolutely wild that Vitality won that game against SK by giving away what I would consider to be like 4 S-tier champions in like Ambessa, Jace, and then also like, was it Yunara and Alistar as well? I think that was the draft, something like that. I just thought, oh, bloody hell, have you given over all these power picks? So I think there's even more depth to the fraudulence of LEC right now. I know it's just week 1. I know it's just week 1 and things tend to change pretty quickly. But guys, you've had a whole off season. You could at least just turn on a stream or watch what's happening in Demacia Cup, Casper Cup, and figure out, oh yeah, by the way, Jace is really broken right now. Maybe we should not let that through unless we counter it with something like a Nocturne Oriana. Like, that to me is wild. So I actually think LEC is, again, on Fraud Watch, this better change up pretty damn quick. I'm going to agree with you, Mato, here, and I think it was pretty well argued. I'd say on the fraudulent scale, I'm going to go one more. I'm going to give it a 6 right now. I think the laning strength has been okay. 6, though, is like, we're very much on Fraud Watch here.
5-6 seems about right to me, too. All right, y'all. Those were our experts. Fraud alerts. Let us know what you thought about Hanwha Life Esports, about AL, and about the level of the LEC in the comments below. And while you're there, if you haven't already, give us a like and subscribe to Last Free Nation. And also, if you got my Animorphs reference, please let me know. That one kind of killed me inside that they didn't have a bigger reaction. All right.
Sorry, Kafka.
Now, time to remind you about
to me.
Kafka was too deep. That's too deep of a cut. It's just making me feel all right. Whatever. It's fine. It's fine. Time to remind you about our friends over at Factor. Now, you want to eat better, but you have 0 time and 0 energy to make it happen. Well, Factor doesn't ask you to meal prep or follow recipes. It just removes the entire problem. 2 minutes, real food, and done. Now, the issue isn't that you're failing at eating healthy. It's you're failing at having 3 extra hours every night. But Factor is already made by chefs, designed by dietitians, and delivered to your door. You heat it for 2 minutes and eat. What's inside? Well, they got you lean proteins, colorful vegetables, whole food ingredients, and healthy fats. The stuff that you'd make if you had the time, with no refined sugars, no artificial sweeteners, and no refined seed oils. Now, it has 100 rotating meals every week. High protein, calorie smart, Mediterranean, GLP-1 support, all different types of menus to fit your lifestyle, including ready-to-eat salads, and the all-new Muscle Pro collection for strength and recovery. You pick what fits your goals: healthier eating, calorie management, more protein, or whatever you're trying to do. You know your goals. Let Factor help you out with their always fresh, never frozen meals. Ready in 2 minutes, no prep, no cleanup, no mental load. You don't need motivation to eat better. Eliminate the reason why you don't. Yamato had the opportunity to have that as well when he was back over at the States. When he was staying at Dom's house, you got to see that Dom does it. A lot of people across our Last Free Nation network use it. Now you can too by heading on over to factormeals.com/powerspike50off and use the code powerspike50off to get 50% off your first Factor box plus free breakfast for 1 year. Offer only valid for new Factor customers with code and qualifying auto-renewing subscription purchase. Make healthier eating easy with Factor. Thanks to our friends over at Factor. All right, let's move on over to high key, low key, no key. Part of this early maybe struggle by the LEC were some offseason moves, maybe also by AL and Hanwha, but maybe not AL, but Hanwha, were some offseason moves, and there was a lot of movement. It was one of the most entertaining off seasons in a while. A lot of that had to do with the auction system that was used by the LPL. And also, it seemed to boil down to where is Viper going to go? Because then after Viper makes his move, then we can figure out who's filling the AD carry role over at Home Life Esports, who's making the move over at T1, who's doing the jungle role over for Home Life Esports as well. And then also who was using what draft points during the LPL draft and auction later on. And then whoever's left over kind of trickled their way over to LEC and LCS. So I'm asking the guys here, who were your high key, low key, and no key moves for the offseason? Let's get into it. All right, Yamato, we'll start with you. No key. The roster move that maybe has too much hype, you can go with that. Roster move that was a move, did not excite you, however you want to put it. What was your no key roster move?
I guess I don't know. I like with how exciting the KC offseason was. I really thought that they would find like a bigger name for the mid lane. Like that's the one, you know, because it's like a high key move was Busio. Like I feel like really that really, you know, shattered a lot over in North America, because I think they're gonna feel the pain of that when you lose, when North America is going to lose like 1 out of like 7 players that are like low-key, like just carrying the region, you are gonna feel the pain. And Busio already moving over. And I thought that KC, like Yahoo, sure, it's like he had like decent RA game when he took over UCal, but and he had like, oh shit, I just dropped my mic. I have like this crazy stand here because I don't have an arm. What's it called? What I was saying. So it's like he looked fine in the LCK. I didn't think he was too crazy, Yahoo. And from his gameplay so far, maybe he's going to adjust to it. Maybe he's going to do better. I just had like, just looking from an off-season perspective fully, I did think like they were going to go for one of like Zini, you know. But then again, from KC's side, I do think that they have had, if there's anything that is like good on their side, it is their scouting. Like they were early on Vladi, early on Kalist, Kana as well. They found gems that nobody else was like looking at. So maybe with time I'll be proven wrong here. It's just like in terms of like name value and what I've seen so far, that I had like a little bit of high expectation of what they would achieve. But then again, nobody's really like hyping up Yahoo as like a massive move. So maybe I'm doing the no key all wrong, but I'll leave it at that.
No, you're doing it. That's right. You're doing exactly right.
Because what the hell is no key? You know, you just stand outside your building. It's like, I have no key. And then you just stand out there in the cold. Like, I don't know. You guys doing no key.
That's Yahoo. People aren't even saying his name right. Yahoo, whatever it is, you know, that's kind of what it is. What we know is that the K is silent. What is the K is silent.
So what is it?
The K is silent. And we were saying Yahoo. But I think, did he change his name? Did he change it, the spelling for this week? Like, because I was hearing Medic say Yahoo. I was like,
No, I don't think it's not been changed at all. So it's just whatever's pronunciation. Well, I don't know. Sometimes on LEC they give you a pronunciation guide. I don't know whether they've been given that for him.
It's weird that it kind of just depends on the player. Like sometimes there'll be a guide. Sometimes it'll just be like, okay, guys, we're all sat in a room. What do we think this person's name is pronounced? So it's yeah.
We had to do like recordings. Like we had to record how we pronounce our name, and we right.
Yes, and I know that a lot of the time in Leaguepedia, the LEC guys. Well, I'm not sure if it was just the LEC guys, but would put how to say someone's name in there. For the longest time in the LCK, we went with Yahoo, but I know that I didn't ask for clarification. Normally I try to, but I did not. And so we just went with Yahoo, and we've heard the different things. The only thing that I remember Chronicler telling me was that the K was silent. It's Yahoo.
On that note, is it Kale or Kyle support player for anyone's legend? Because I thought it was Kyle, because that's how I heard Chronicler say that on LCK. But I've heard other people internationally say Kyle, or like Kale now instead. So is it Kyle?
Yeah,
Kale is a vegetable.
Would say Kyle.
We say Kyle, bro.
But I heard people say
Kyle. This guy is from Krypton.
I thought it was Kyle. I thought it was going insane.
He's from Krypton, bro. He's fucking Superman's cousin, Kyle. Come on now.
Yeah, a lot of the time, I mean, when the Korean players, they have their names in Hangul, and you have to be able to read it in Hangul. However, you know, I'm not 100% sure. Again, Kyle was a player that made the move after I got there. So I assume it's Kyle, but because that's how you would say it in Hangul, unless it was spelled differently. So
I'm never saying Zeus, by the way. I'm saying Zeus because it has 10 times more aura. I'm saying it out of respect. Zeus.
Dude, there's a guy in LCP, there's the mid laner for Garm, a guy he's technically called Ares, but it's just Ares spelled out. And Ares is so much more aura. Why would you not be called Ares? Sometimes players need to just figure out the cooler way. Just let people decide for them how their name should be said, because it actually helps their career. You know?
Well, I think it's something that they don't think about. I don't think they have a like. If they chose, I don't think
to think for them. Then
I think if they chose, they would, of course, let other people be like, okay, it's easier, it's whatever. But you know, it is what it is. All right, Yehu, no key. Yamato, who you got?
I know obviously we have a little bit of hindsight of first week here ish, but I'm kind of no key on Vladdy. Weirdly, I actually kind of would have preferred if they'd held on to Poby. I don't know how hot a take this is, but I just felt like, at least to me, when Poby came in, structurally, they just looked and seemed a lot better. Now, obviously, I have no idea what happened in the offseason. I don't know what changed like behind the scenes of Fnatic, and it's typically a bit of a dumpster fire. But I'm usually one for trying to hold on to pieces that, you know, seem to make things better. And Poby to me seemed like definitely an immediate upgrade on Humanoid, because Humanoid was just cruising. And at least to me, comms wise, Poby seemed like he was actually helping lead the team, right? It seemed like he was probably taking a little bit of pressure off of players like Upset. Mickey seemed to also kind of be, you know, absent. He seemed very checked out, especially towards the back end of the year. And it felt like Poby was filling a lot of that gap. So I was kind of surprised that they went a different direction. And it's not like a slight on Vladdy. Like, it's not like, oh, I think like Vladdy's a bad player or worse than Poby. I just felt like structurally it didn't make as much sense to me. So I'm kind of no key on Vladdy. I feel like as well we still kind of got a lot of the same Vladdy in week 1 that we had a lot of this last year too, where laning wasn't always like super strong, right? And that's always kind of been the main criticism since, especially first stand, when he kind of got exposed against the international mids. So yeah, that's where my no key is. Not super long, not super depthy. I just feel like Fnatic would probably look like a better team with Poby in. That's just my gut. And I think, especially like in contrast, obviously 1,000,001 different moving pieces. You look over at Na'Vi and how structured they look. I have a feeling that's not a coincidence. Like, also, you got to hear their coach talk on cast a bit. That guy seems like his head is very screwed on. But I think in general, Na'Vi looked significantly more structured than Fnatic did throughout a lot of that week. And I wonder how much of that lies in, like, we heard the comms. It was a very big talking point when Poby came in into Fnatic in summer. So that's where my no key is for the time being.
I don't know. I feel like that one feels a little stronger to me, like a little harsher to me than the Yehu one. The Yehu makes a little bit more sense. I think Vladdy is a product that you wanna that deserved a home. Maybe not in Fnatic when you had Poby, but
deserved a home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess what I was saying also is Yehu doesn't deserve a home, if I say it like that. So that's not what I meant either.
That's what you just said. Yeah. You doesn't deserve a home. You heard it here first. Hey, KC fans. Hey, mon frère Digon. Yehu, no like.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Mira, who's your no-key move?
Just to clarify, no-key is just like a move which you just think is a very nothing burger, rather than like
Yeah.
Like,
In this week,
negative, because like there are plenty of negative ones you could talk about. For instance, like top esports, massive downgrade in jungle support, but that's part of the kind of
the inactive exodus.
Yeah,
but-
the
but,
split
and
one
for-
seems to work in
basically,
China.
for the record, folks, as far as I understand it, a lot of players chose to take a split break rather than going to the auction. One, because split one in LPL and first stand is seen as less prestigious. Or rather, it's like you can bear with not competing in it because you don't have to deal with the auction. And instead, maybe you just get transferred mid-split instead. Oh, team's struggling, Tien's back in, or Jackal's back in, or whatever. So actually, with that in mind, I don't think there are that many nothing burgers from LPL. I think if it isn't, if it is like, it's either low-key minimum or it's just a downgrade. So I actually don't think any of the LPL ones really fit the spirit of the question. So
I wouldn't want to throw like the what I would say, like the kids that are covering for the parents on vacation.
It's
Like
not
that
on
doesn't feel that's not on them.
So I think I have to go for another Fnatic player as a Noki then. I think Emperos is like, he's fine. He's fine. You know, and he's a player which comes into top lane to cover a guy. You know, Oscar Inin struggled, right? He struggled. He had occasional bright bursts where a very strange player where he's one of the few players which showed occasionally great side laning knowledge, occasionally great laning knowledge, occasionally great teamfight knowledge, but very rarely all of these at the same time. So across the average, he ended up being middling to poor, especially for what Fnatic were looking for. Emperos, I think, is a guy that will probably have less of the spikes and the positives, but his sitting level won't be fantastic for the level of LEC top. I mean, he played against... Who are the top laners he played against so far? He played against...
Wunderbaus, and then they played Navi, so Mentor.
Yeah, and you know, like I would say they are fine top laners for LEC, and I think he looked fine. You know, Yamato and I cast this guy back in NLC 22. Funnily enough, Fladdy was his mid laner back then. I'd imagine they just came as somewhat of a package deal. They also played in the PG Nats, the Italian ERL just before that too. So clearly they've come in somewhat as a duo, I would imagine, as kind of like these Greek solo laners which have stuck it out for a while. They've been on previous teams before. But I think Emperos will be just fine. I don't think this guy is going to be explosively growing. He's a bit of a duelist player, so I think he really does fit into the Noki slot for me.
All right. Well, let's turn it back to you for your Loki. Who's an addition that was like a sneaky addition that you liked, maybe has like way more upside than what people think?
Oh, me as well?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, Loki. Oh, now I need to think on the spot because this one actually, okay. The one which I was mulling around is actually Dokla, because he came in last minute, right? So it's Lion he's gone back onto, right? Because that's because of the visa issues. And look, it feels bad for Zamado, but I think realistically, Dokla probably should have had a team in LCS anyway. Top lane is just a very stacked role there. And I think that low-key Dokla, he smooths over a lot of teams that he's in, fairly versatile, fairly experienced. And when you've got a player like Inspired, who we know can be someone that needs trust in a team and the communication needs to be quite solid. Otherwise, as we saw in, you know, I can't believe they released that video, by the way, at Worlds, where just communication completely broke down. I think Dokla low-key could work quite well with Inspired, just in terms of what we know of his character and how he can be a stabilizing force. I think actually he'd be quite good for Inspired as a player. So he's my low-key.
I think that's a great pick. I actually didn't think about that until now. I think that's a really good pick with knowing how that team is going to be Inspired centric. Berserker also has a big voice in that, and you just need someone who's seen the highs and lows.
Calming influence.
Don't forget,
been through it all.
Don't forget the Saint as well. Like I was talking with some NA guys. They're talking about how Saint like seemed to semi-check out towards the end of last year because he just fucking hated the Leon players, bro.
Wait, so really? Wow.
Well, like, bro, if you're playing like Saint was throughout a lot of last year, like Saint individually had I would say
he had a great year,
possible year. Like he had a very good year, but your jungler is Odilan.
Sorry,
do I need to go further? Like your jungler is Odilan. Like
Jamada, how many fan bases are we getting onto as this episode?
I know that's three. That's three so far.
Look, that's just how it was last year for Leon. So I think hopefully, fingers crossed, Dokla will be that stabilizing force. I agree. Hopefully he does that.
You know what?
Go ahead. Oh,
I just wanted to chime in on the Dokla point. You know, there's a proven statistic. If you rename to Ibrahim, there's a high chance that you get because there's two Ibrahims currently, and maybe there's something there. You just have to rename to Ibrahim, and then you get a slot. So Photon is called Ibrahim. No, I'm
Do you
kidding.
reckon? Do you think that'll work for me in broadcast? Do you think I should name to Ibrahim when I get to do a broadcast?
Maybe. Maybe you get to get on the LCS broadcast because Gakos is Ibrahim.
Hey, I'm
Fudge is
renaming
Ibrahim.
to Naime Ibrahim.
Bro, you could pull off an
Naime
Ibrahim. You
Ibrahim.
just need a little beard action, and then I will call you brother.
Yeah. We'll bring the hair around.
All right.
all right.
I interrupted you,
Jamata,
Yamato.
get in there. Yeah, Jamata.
Yeah. You know what? Just because I haven't seen too many people talking about him, and I guess maybe it's because of the fact that he kind of disappeared off the radar for a lot of people because he was on the good old Vivo Keystars last year. Trimby on shifters, man. This is my Loki. Yeah, I've really liked seeing Trimby back. I think he was a big reason as to why Vivo Keystars were, a much more successful team than perhaps they deserved to be inside of that format last year.
Yeah.
And in general, I think a lot of, especially from Europe, I think people's last kind of impression on Trimby, for whatever reason, seems to be quite negative. And I think that's to do with like the flat results of Team Heretics that year, and how I want to say
I
they had
actually
their-
forgot he was on Heretics.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was like Heretics in, I want to say winter, it was like really bad, and then he came back in, and then they looked significantly better, and then in summer they just couldn't get their shit together. But to me, Trimby was really, really good. And obviously the guys.
What have
got
you done to
more
my
than enough-
name?
Ibrahim era.
Daniel?
Yeah, like I don't know. I think this guy is a natural leader. I think he's matured over the course of his career, because one of the things that you would hear at times is that he's a bit of an emotional player. He would kind of tilt on plays quite easily, and things like that. And I don't really see that too much in his play. And I mean, even the Nico game yesterday, when they completely demolished MKOI, he was kind of leading the charge on that game, as much as anyone else was, in my opinion. So yeah, I'm gonna say Trimby, mostly because I think he's we all know who Trimby is here on the show, right? He's been a known quantity for a very long time, but I think for most people, for some reason, he kind of just fell off the radar as like this very premier support. Mostly because he went off to Brazil for a year, and then obviously his last impression in Europe wasn't like necessarily the best, but I don't think that had a lot to do with him. So Trimby's my Loki.
I remember a play from this week where it felt like Trimby still getting the growing pains out. I think he I forgot what he was playing, but he went in by himself, and I was like, oh, Trimby still wants to be the
everyone gets
aggressor and
one.
wants to, work his way on in. But I think that's what I like about an example like that, is that we know how he likes to play. It's not a timid support who's just going to follow along. He's like, hey guys, listen to me. I will lead us to victory. Oops, I made a mistake, but that's okay. It didn't really lead to anything that was too much, but it was one of those oopsies. And that is the type of player that he is. He's going to make the play that will win or lose you the game, but it's better than sitting back and just being reactive. So Trimby there, a nice pickup here, I think, by Yamato. Yamato, you next in your low key, and then you can turn us around with the high key.
Low key. Like I thought of a little bit of a different spin on it. Like was I thought that HLE's offseason is a little bit overhyped in comparison to what it was. So it's like I'm low-key overhyped. I'm going the negative direction, because I want to present the argument that I think that HLE will win less than they did the previous year, and also on paper that the roster was better last year. I think everybody loves Gumayushi, and I think that's fair. At Worlds, he's fucking fantastic. But throughout the year, Viper brought a consistency that HLE really, really needed, and I think that Viper just plays at like a 98% all the time. The only difference with Gumayushi is that he occasionally breaks through to 100 on moments that really, really matter, like that Ash game against AL when his Dr. Mundo was, running it down.
On stage, building the wrong items. being micro by
Seraphine
Faker.
just flashing into walls, like it was it was a mess, you know. Like Gumayushi definitely has those 100s, but I think throughout the year, it's like the competition is going to be so tough for HLE. And I'm a big fan of Kanavi. I'm very happy because I do think that he can grow in the right direction in, of course, Korea. But like people like to hate on Peanut, but Peanut got screwed over by Riot Games. Let's be honest. The winter split was supposed to be the only fearless split, and then they're like, you know what, Peanut, go fuck yourself. We're gonna feel it for the whole year. You wanna play Sejuani? One time only, baby. So it's like for me, HLE, they won first stand. There were periods where they were the best team in the world, like that period in winter. They dominated LCK, and that was the tournament to win. And I don't think that HLE, I think that they will be less successful this year. I don't think they're going to win LCK a single time. I don't think they're going to win an international tournament either, due to the competition and also due to the nature of the inconsistency, I think, of the players, which I think in the LCK you need stability, you need to be able to pump out numbers because the final bosses are T1 and Gen G. Like, I just want people to remember that context. T1 and Gen G are in full force. Gen G looked bad at Worlds against KT1, but they were dominating the whole damn year. So the competition is just very, very fierce. So that's my low-key. I think the HLE off-season, overhyped.
Whew. I mean, week one says you're right. Week one says you're right.
Like, I mean, realistically, the reason why HLE was so good in Winter and First Stand is because they had the best jungle support in the world at that time. I think Delight was really good, and I think it worked really well with Peanut. I actually think that duo, even at the Worlds before that, I think that they were still the best jungle support as a duo at that point. I just think the rest of the team just didn't quite.
Yeah, Zeka got cooked, and they had like ADs, like he was playing MF, and we had like the Silas Galio evolution that Knight was just ahead on the curve on. But I feel like Peanut played good in that series. I'm sure.
And it's just like specifically as a duo, the way they moved around the map was the special thing, and that's just really hard to build. Like jungle support is the spine of any team, and you can clearly see with HLE. I mean, we talked about them in the fraud segment earlier, right? They don't have that same connection right now, which is, like, I know that sounds really vague or whatever, but like if you look at how they were playing around Winter and then First Stand, they were always at the most important area of the map before the enemy team. Always. And that's really what set them ahead. And so, yeah, I can understand, actually. If you have to rebuild that, they're no longer ahead of the curve on the part where arguably they were strongest in the world before.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I was going to say he played the Vladimir, but he didn't play the Vladimir. Zayas played the Vladimir. I forgot about that. Go with your high key here. The move that you think made you feel the most emotion here, Yamato. What move was it? Who's your high key?
I've already kind of mentioned it, but I feel like JDG just killed the LCP in one swoop, you know? Like...
They did, yeah.
This was supposed to be, you know, the follow-up of the year. It's like, damn, look how good they are. I'm gonna have to pay attention to the LSP the entire time. They've convinced me, you know, they've been in the conversation at tournaments the entire time. You know, fair play to that squad, and JDG just picked them all up. And now, like, I cannot. Like LCP needs to prove itself 10 times again now. Like, you know, like it's just very tough. Like in terms of impact. I feel like that's like the biggest one. I threw in the Busio move too because I think it kind of spells the doom of North America. Like I think it's like if you have the current gen of players that are like carrying the rosters, it's like if Impact retires, JJ retires, Inspired goes to EU, and let's say like Busio already left. It's like who are the guys that are on the dominant teams? Because in the past,
Jojo.
Like,
oh shit.
Oh yeah, Jojo. He's
actually called
really tough, you know. It's like
Plus Espanol, see.
Because those two things, I feel like you have the doom of LCP and the LCS, the Busio move. Like that's just like every other player that is like worth their salt is not going to want to move to Europe. Plain and simple. What's the point of staying, really?
That, you know, the context behind that move, as I've been able to read a little bit more of, I guess, the history and the lore of some of these players or some of these teams, the LPL teams, through translation sites, is that JDG is based in Beijing, and it's just like it's the capital, and so there isn't as much to do there. People don't like want to go there as much, and JDG has the money. They've got Intel money. but they weren't quite able to get the big name players. They were in the Viper sweepstakes, the Viper Night sweepstakes, but just the base again is in Beijing, and people don't want to be there, so they would rather take a lesser, or get more money somewhere else. And so left over, good for Hongqiu and Junjia to get the bag and get the opportunity to move on in. But I like how your high key move isn't just one player; it is the double effect, the boost that JDG gives, and the withdrawal from LCP.
Well, it's killed the whole region, particularly with Talon just imploding as well. You're absolutely right. LCP were actually internationally relevant. They on average did better than NA across last year at international events. That's not going to happen this year. I think you've actually chosen the most impactful move of the season, just the collapse of LCP. It sucks.
Well, I would say that we wait and see. They at least are bot first stand time, maybe MSI time, maybe 1 year. Maybe we give them 1 year and see if another team can crop up and make the play
Shadow.
and surprise.
Yeah, Shadow.
Pangyan, baby.
Come on now. Levi also retired. That's also a tough one,
Yeah.
Punch in the gut.
guess we get to see what 2029, 2030 LCK might look like. Or what might happen in the future for LCS as what you said, Yamato, in terms of like a lot of the stalwarts of the league moving on. We'll see how the LCP takes off here afterwards. Yamato, what's your hikey move?
Well, Yamato stole mine. Funnily enough, though, I'm still going to stay on JDG. It's technically not a roster move, but if you want to like kind of be a bit cheeky, it's Tabe, bro. It's Tabe. I
like that.
I think in conjunction as well with the Hongqiu pickup, but then also I think simultaneously Vampire, because if you're in the LPL community, there's been a lot of discourse around Vampire for a little while now. Thanks, Aragon. And depending on where you weigh, your or how what games you watch of Vampire, I think that's going to very, very heavily impact your view on him as a player. But I think having Tabe there as the coach, that Tabe's track record is just fucking ridiculous. It might be one of the most ridiculous track records in recent history for a coach, period. Like the actual tangible impact that he has on every team that he has joined for like the last 5 years. I haven't seen anything like it from any other staff on the planet. And I think the fact that he's picked up this he's managed to land on this roster with this core of Junjia and Hongqiu, right? Hongqiu is still going to be, in my opinion, a very malleable player. But then also I think Vampire, who, say what you want about Vampire, he's hungry. And I think that, I think hunger is something you can't teach in a player. He wants to make plays, and I think that's very important. And I think Tabe is going to be able to draw the lines in the sand for him as an individual, a lot better than any other coach maybe could in a setting where feedback is constructive and ideas are allowed to flow, because one of the few privileges we have with Tabe is the guy speaks English, so he's been on broadcasts, he's come and he's interacted with the Western side of the sphere, so we get insights a lot more with Tabe than we do any other LPL coach. So for me, my high key is Tabe. I think he's on a project which just makes a lot of sense. Not only did JDG just win the roster, Mania offseason with that mid jungle pickup, but I think specifically Tabe is probably the perfect candidate to have overlook this project of JDG, not just for the mid jungle, but also for Vampire, who I think again there's a lot of room for improvement. And if there's any coach I could put faith in making that improvement actually happen, it's Tabe.
I love that.
Yeah, pretty much every team plays the same style. You can actually legitimately see the playstyle difference. It's like quick, opportunistic teleports. And we saw that with RNG when they were running their MSIs. We saw that with BLG when he came onto them. We've seen that with Anyone's Legend. Like, if you ever make a mistake, very quick teleport, map flips, win the game. Like, he's very, very... You can genuinely tell the impact he has on the team. So yeah, I completely understand that. It's just very funny that he managed to keep the Anyone's Legend roster together, and then he just fucked off. Like, he just went to another team. He's done this, like, several times. Like, BLG 23. Wow, looks great. sorry, I'm heading off to anyone's Legend in 24. I'm not staying. And the Knight joins, and you think, okay, well, that's great. It's kind of like, funnily enough, tying this back to the LCP thing. Chawi is the anti-Tabe as a coach, because Chawi was the coach of CFO, and he's like, guys, I'm going to stay, so you stay, and everyone else leaves him. So, like, this poor guy, every single player pretty much leaves, and they just scatter to the winds while he stays. Tabe is just like, okay, I kept you together, you do great, I got something else with a bigger bag to go to.
But everyone has to sign the same document.
I love that one. That's a really good point on that. Nightmare, what's your high key?
I suppose we should talk about BLG, because they've gone from a team which is... But the question is, which player do I talk about? Because Viper is the guy which everyone heard about, and that's the crazy one, so it technically fits with the spirit of it. But probably the more important one is Shun coming back to the roster. Let's talk about Shun, yeah. Because it feels like just whatever they did with the jungle matchup, Shun was the spirit of the team. Even if individually he's worse than a player like Kanavi or Tarzan on a pure individual level, and that's actually quite hard to argue against. He matches up against them, and they often do get the leg over him individually. The way that this team approaches fights and snowballing while Shun is in the roster is just night and day. A really, really great example of this just happened the other day when they played against Anyone's Legend, where it was... Which game was it? Was it game 2? He was playing Nocturne into Shinzao. And he goes for an early invade, and he dies. So he messes up the invade, and he dies. And then immediately, when he respawns, they fight over the Scuttle Crab, which then Tarzan goes to afterwards. And they completely body the fight. Knife's Edge team fight in the way that we were seeing BLG win those kind of fights into, later into 23, summer 23. Spring 23, I think a lot of people kind of retcon as, oh, it was a great split. No, it was only just before playoffs that BLG came online. And that was when Tabe came into the team, interestingly enough, too. But you go later into 23 and then into 24. The lethality in which they play those team fights, those skirmishes, those knife edge, is completely different. So if you compare that skirmish where they end up walking away with 2 kills on Night Syndra, completely takes over the game. Even though Shun had died early, it feels like they just approached that skirmish in such a more with so much more intent than they would before. You compare that to how they were playing against early skirmishes against 100 Thieves at Worlds, where they just looked awful. Regardless of who was playing at Worlds, whether it was Shadow or Baytron, it was exactly the same issue. They just didn't have the same mentality of approaching skirmishes. Shun is probably the more impactful player as a style for BLG to get back. And the fact that he left his team for a year because of all that drama about potential poaching allegations, which are apparently due to this other manager who was on Weibo or something, just denying a year of what should have been, peak BLG. It's really sad. Glad he's back. Huge difference to the team. And just from the first series that they've played, I think they're back.
Thoughts? Quick thoughts here, Yamato?
Yeah, it was always crazy when Shun didn't stay on the lineup after 24. Clear impact, very, I think, significantly more flexible than every other jet like Baytron and Shadow. His ceiling is higher, I think his floor is higher. And of course, he's got the benefit of being able to play the mechanical junglers if they happen to become meta. I think right now it's crazy that we're not seeing more Dawn and Dust champions, more AP junglers in general on this patch right now. Specifically, like Diana is very playable in pro play, in my opinion. I think
that literally happens because mid laners don't play AD champions.
I know.
Same issue.
I know, like a lot of the time in pro, it's like dictated by AD. What's good in mid on AD, but yeah, Shun's got it all, man. Shun can do it all. So, yeah, I very much agree, and he's just gonna be good on BLG, right? And Knight can play AD champs if they happen to become meta again, right? So they're going to be a very, very scary team from start to finish this year because of Shun. He's going to be a very key factor to that.
Yeah, we had a bevy of picks here for our high key, low key, no key moves. Not enough from the LCS, so I'm going to throw some out there. No key, inspired to Lion. It's a inspired team. That's what it is. Low key, all of Sentinels. What they put together is pretty surprising, and my boy Hanbok has a home. Bro talent. And high key, this is a Visa pending, yes.
Visa pending.
High key, another Visa pending pick is, I think, the success to the NRG roster, Ignar. I think Ignar coming back, unfortunately, on Dignitas, fortunately, with FBI. So, I think it's a very underrated pick. So maybe that's actually the low-key pick.
Yeah, that roster unfortunately has Palafox mid, though, in it. So,
there's good Palafox actually somewhere in there.
We'll see how
last time I saw him play Ari, it annoyed me so much I now just call him Pala, and he has to earn the Fox back. So
Well, the last time the three of them played together, they won the 2023 summer split. Just throwing that one out there. So there it is. And also shout outs to Griffin, homie from out here, now getting an opportunity in the LCS back home. He had to make the trip here, do the T1 Academy, grind, play in Brazil, have a split under his belt with Loud. Now back to NA. That's a fantastic story. Let's see how he does there on FlyQuest. Supporting Quad. Just do whatever Quad says. We'll see what happens. All right. Those are our picks. If we missed one, because there were a lot of moves this season, let us know in the comments below and how we did with our high key, low key, no key picks. All right. Final one of the day before we get into the Galaxy Brain Club, where I like this topic for Galaxy Brain Club. It's time to remind you about our friends over at Prize Picks. Now, for those of you in America, the big game is almost here, and there's no better way to cash in during America's biggest sporting event than Prize Picks, where it always feels good to be right. And since the big game is right around the corner, that also means it's your last chance to get into the football action before next season. So close out the season right with Prize Picks by getting $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. It's super simple. Download the app and you're good to go. I was able to do that. Thankfully, my Broncos, who are still in it and have the opportunity to play in the biggest sporting event in America, bode well. Lots of great picks for me there every time I followed well along with Bo Nix and the crew. Unfortunately, he's out. Stidham in. I'm not too worried, so hopefully the Broncos will continue to do well in the last couple games of the season. Now, it's not only just to get your pick needs in there, but also there are a bunch of social features as well that you can share your prize picks and prize picks with your friends and copy lineups from winners with the single click. Copy lineups you like or use them as inspiration for your own picks. You can even follow prize pick partners like us to tail or fade our picks with just one click. And Prize Picks now has early payouts. If your player gets off to a hot start, you now have the option to cash out those winnings before the game even finishes. And if you got knocked out of your fantasy team, no worries. Prize Pick has you covered. Prize Picks lets you pick fantasy football every week, even in the playoffs. Pick your favorite players and win when they hit their projections every week. No draft required. So download the Prize Picks app now and use the code POWERSPIKE to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code POWERSPIKE to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. Thanks to our friends over at Prize Picks. Just giving that little bit of extra oomph during the sporting season. All right, Galaxy Brain Club time. And this one I think is a fun one. I'm not exactly sure how much you know about the economics of it. However, it's something that we're getting to see for the first time. And it feels like maybe 10 years. Maybe it's like 9 years. But with KC and KCB both being in the same league, in the same competition, in Tier 1, it's multi-team ownership in leagues. We got to see that before in the OGN days of the LCK. And there are some goods, there's some bads. We got to see week one of it. They went toe-to-toe. It was a lot of fun. Wanted to get your guys' thoughts on that in this week's Galaxy Brain Club. Let's get into it. Yamato, let's start with you here. Since you're competing in the league, you know what's happening. It's Versus. It's a little different than LEC regular season. Two teams from the same org. How does that make you feel? Are you worried about competitive things? Do you see the positive? Does the positive outweigh the potential negative? Like, how do you see it?
It's a little bit goofy. Obviously from KC's side, like they won the Masters summer. Like if they were in a position where they gain less out of that when something is proposed, that would have also been just a goofy situation, because like let it trickle down to somebody that made fourth place. It wouldn't have made much sense either in my mind. So It's kind of like a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. Like I don't think necessarily like that KCB is doing anything like wrong or KC either, but it's just the implication, right? That's the whole point of just a conflict of interest as they play. I think they did the good strategic move of rolling out that game as game one, for both teams. So it's not like, oh, playoffs is on the line, KC versus KCB. They need one win to make it. Like, thank God that shit didn't happen. But maybe like if it does happen, I don't expect the community that is vocal on Reddit and Twitter to be able to zoom out past 2 days. So they will forget that there was a match in week one. In terms of the economics, I know in the past there was like sister teams. I imagine that you could like cut a lot of costs on facilities and have you double dip in everything that you kind of have, whether it's coaching staff, and that was a good way of making sure that you also got experience for your players. Because, for example, Samsung Blue and White, they were switching players between the teams to try to configure like the best rosters. So they were using it.
One roster move was arguably the most important one of all time.
Yeah, exactly. And it was just they were using it as a massive competitive tool, and obviously there were rivalries that spawned between the sister teams too. And I think that still at the surface of it, it was something that was strange. But I think at the same time, it was something that we were used to, because in StarCraft 2, you had you also had players from under the same club play against each other. That happened super often in Korea. It happened outside of Korea. I remember like Idra and what's his name? There was another player. I'm spacing on his name. They were both from EG, and they were playing against each other, and they both hated each other. Even though they were on the same banner. So there is some fun to be had with that. But obviously, it's like the conflict of interest thing, and the question is like how serious do you want to be? In Formula One, it's like it's just accepted that teams should like battle and like fight and help each other, even though the egos of drivers sometimes gets ahead of that, and they battle for like pole position and they crash into each other, a la McLaren. Like that's something that happens. And then you have scenarios like with Mercedes where the Finnish guy is just the GOAT second, and he's just helping
Valtteri Bottas.
Yeah, come on now, sauna GOAT. There's just the second of all time. Like he's just helping his bro out. No competition. In the grand scheme of things, I can imagine like that. If there's an incentive to qualify and there's an incentive to do an ERL to get to participate, and you get money and a return on that, I do think that part makes sense. But if I wanted to have like a more elegant solution, just because KCB don't even retain the roster coming into the next year, right? Like that's also like the weird. It's like, oh, you are at the end of the year, your players are going to move, like Mentor into Navi and so forth, and then you're going to be playing in that spot too. I feel like at that point, maybe you need to like auction off the spot if you are in Casey's position. It's like, oh, we're going to auction off the spot, and then whoever pays the most, and then you split that revenue with the team that had the baby team, the academy team, and then of course maybe with some of the LEC teams too. Maybe that's a more elegant solution to it, because I do think like everything is quite odd. And I wonder if Riot, they wanted the Los Ratones in, and they're like 11 is a weird number, let's throw another one in. I am against the whole sister team thing, but I understand the situation, the case seasons. Like it would be suck if like they won summer and then they don't get the reward at a different team. Like if Unicorns of Love got to play, like it wouldn't make any sense. It would be so silly. So I think they just needed to find a more elegant solution as to what an academy team would actually gain if they win summer, but everything felt a little bit spontaneous and fast.
Yeah, I think you gave so much good context there. For those of you that are newer and maybe didn't know some of the LCK history, LCK used to be called OGN. OGN was On Game Net, which was the name of the TV channel out here that had esports. It was 24/7 esports. It still exists, but it does a lot of reruns of early 10s StarCraft. It has a lot of StarCraft on there. But they would have sister teams. So T1 would be there, but they had SKTT1T and SKTT1K. KT was
S,
KT Rolster Arrows and KT Rolster Bullets.
CJ
Jin Air
Blazing
Green
Frost.
Wings. Yep, Blazing Frost, which used to be
Incredible Miracle 1 and
MIG,
2, which was
Yep.
very inventive.
which used to be Big File Miracle. So like there were these big conglomerates that were in the league, but their teams qualified. They had the best players, but it was an open system. And then when franchising came into place, well, these conglomerates had their teams because they still had the best teams, but there was no longer promotion relegation. And you did that to protect your investment, right? There was no relegation. All of a sudden, all the money that you spent on housing and signing these contracts and signing like a lease doesn't just go to crap because now your team isn't performing in a way that you can sell sponsorships. So that is why most that is, from what I understand, is why most, if not all, sister teams went away, as well as the conflict of interest, right? But there were times where teams play against each other.
During the switch from OGN to LCK, they did still have like promotion relegation, but then they did away with it because they still had promotion relegation way up until much later in LCK, though, right? Because that's how Griffin got in, Box Tigers,
Sandbox.
different. A number of years they had that. So for them specifically, that change came way back. So I'm not sure exactly what the logic is for that.
Right. Well, I think it was when LCS franchising happened, which was 2017. So in 2017, that's when franchising happened. So I think it did away with a lot of the sister teams because at that time, Cloud9 had Cloud9 Tempest, Curse had Curse Academy, and Team Liquid was kind of there as well.
But like,
right,
so change happened in 2015, so that was well before it happened in the West and the franchising too, which is why it was strange at the time, because like that was coming off of the year that Samsung Blue and White just destroyed the year. They were the two best teams in the world by far. And then they just said, look, it's going over from OGN to being effectively ran Riot more closely to Riot. They did away with the sister teams and they kind of folded the teams into one, which is why we got, Faker and Bengi going onto the team, which is basically T1S at that point from 2014. So they got rid of Piglet Mandu and Impact, and then they kind of combined the two teams. But franchising for LCK didn't come until way later, and even in the West, it was a number of years. I can't remember when it happened.
It was 2017. In the West, it was definitely 2017, but I can imagine that those conversations were probably happening around that time.
Yeah, probably.
And it just took a little bit longer to implement, especially in the West, because in the East, you're dealing with smaller hands and the ecosystem is so much more insular, right? So I think that they kind of understood. And also to ease the pain, they had Masters. They had Masters where it was
NLB Masters. Yeah.
And they had NLB Masters, which was like the 10 player rosters, and you had to figure out like which group of players were coming to play this time, and
like you play
each
one
team
squad
didn't
in one
know
game of the series and switch in the other one. It's so cool.
Yeah. And it was like it was hidden. People didn't know who was playing until draft started, and then they revealed who was in the booth. It was kind of cool, and it was like their idea of like, okay, we'll ease this change from sister teams away. And then that tournament just was a little too clunky as well, so they got rid of that one as well.
In the words of Yamato, yeah.
So Yamata, what do you think of this in terms of the KC and KC Blue specifically here, and a world where sister teams come back, because this is something that a lot of the top owners and ownership has talked about before?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just wondering, like, if I think more about like the grander picture of where we're at in League of Legends right now. Like, does multi-team ownership extend the perceived life of where the game is heading? And I personally, I can't give a conclusive answer. I feel like I'm leaning a little bit more to no. Like, I don't think it really does that much. You would need the biggest teams, the biggest brand like orgs across the world to have these multi-team ownership deals, where it's like you would need to have T1 and T1, 2, T1 12. Fuck it. having two teams in the LCK and Gen.G and bring back the Tiger part of the Gen.G branding or whatever. Although they were Samsung might before, but yeah, like you understand what I'm saying. Like you would have to have the biggest teams across the world with the big brands that can actually carry, I think, a lot of the viewership, but also then obviously the economic cost of running those two teams. And I'm not really sure against how long we've been in franchising and how people feel about having those two teams in franchising. How people would feel about that in situations where, let's say it's 16 playoffs. Some shenanigans could occur very easily, in a lot of circumstances, and that's always where people's minds are going to be at, the competitive integrity side of it. And it's been the vocal point of having KCB in the league. Riot's overall, like, getting KCB in, I still feel like, and many people feel like having LR, like, it was, right, we need to get LR in the league. LR in the league, priority numero uno. Shit. 11 teams is weird, like you said, Digon. I guess we can give, like, the stipulation that we'll add the best performing team over the course of the year, so that no matter what at this point, LR are always in. And then we get 12 teams and we can sort out the format from there. And yeah, making them play KCB and KC on day one is just the best case, scenario to avoid shenanigans happening. But in a franchise setting, how do you stop that from happening split to split? Like, if there are multiple orgs that have multiple teams in a league. Also, there's things like, well, what do you do? Do you increase team, like, league cap? Do you just keep it at 10, like in the West or in the LCK? All of these, like, other questions I think that come in. So I don't know. I like the idea of it because I only came into league in 2014, so I very barely remember, like, the time of having sister teams in the league, and it was fun. It was fun watching those rivalries brew if they occur. But it's more about, do teams have the facilities for it now? Do they feel like it's a worthwhile investment? Given where, League of Legends as a product in the esports space has been going for the last 3 years or so, I feel like most teams, with the exception of, like, T1, Gen.G, maybe a big, like, LPL team, would feel like it's a worthwhile venture to even have multiple teams inside of the league. Because otherwise, I think for other organizations, it's just too big an operational cost against the potential return. Because that's it, it's the potential return, right? It's not even about, like, a guaranteed return in many cases. And there just isn't that much money domestically inside of a lot of these regions, right? Even the prize pool, for the LCK was cut recently. Actually, it was for all of the regions, right? The domestic prize pool was just kind of nuked.
Not for Brazil and China, I think. Not for Brazil and China,
something like
but
this. Yeah. So it's like, domestically, you're not even really playing for the financial part. What little financial, earnings you could get. For most of the regions, it's like, okay, can we qualify to an international and get one of these 6-figure, prize pool rewards? And the chances that, as a multi-org team, if you're already a high performer, right? Let's say you're G2, you're consistently going to a majority of the internationals. What is the chance that you manage to build a second roster that then fills in one of those other 2 out of 2 or 3 slots for MSI and Worlds? A roster that can compete with your MKOI or your Fnatic or obviously now this year your KC. It's low, right? Like, I think it's generally speaking, it's going to be low. So I don't think it's, from the team perspective, I don't even think it's worth it, unfortunately, as much as I wouldn't even be against it in many circumstances, as long as Riot put in place, like, certain situations to stop shenanigans from going afoot with the competitive integrity side.
Get in there, Nymera.
Yeah, so I think 2 ways to view it. There's sister teams in general, sister teams in the LEC. In the LEC, for this one-off thing, it just feels very disjointed. The problem is it could potentially give a competitive integrity, a competitive advantage to one team and not the others. If everyone has sister teams, they both get to trade kind of scrim information, and that's kind of seen as kind of like just fair at that point, and you can kind of scrim internally whatever. Because let's be honest, KCB are not going to get the same scrims that KC does. If you had, a lower tier team, maybe actually KCB has an advantage over that because they get more scrim information from KC and they can learn about the other teams. I know that KC have said that they are not communicating between the teams, but the possibility still exists that it could do, and they're just saying another thing, and that's where the integrity kind of gets called into question. I'm not saying that they are, but the possibility that it could happen is the problem in the first place. So I think that the way that they've done it for LEC, it definitely adds an asterisk onto LEC versus, which is not great. I understand that it's only for one split. I don't love the way that they've done it, but if this is the way that they're going to judge it and say, you know, KCB are the best performing team, they have to go through, blah, blah, blah. And obviously the extra thing about, it's already been mentioned, they don't even keep their same roster. So it feels even more kind of weak with that. You're not even inviting the same team. At that point, you should probably just hold like an LEC versus qualifier at that point in off-season and say, okay, post-Worlds, we're going to do an LEC off-season qualifier, much at the same time as like Demacia Cup and Casper Cup. It might be a bit bodged, but that's probably a more fair way to do it. Then the problem is, you know, EMEA Masters gets downgraded at that point because it's actually a less important tournament than the odd qualifier. It just adds to a lot of complications. In general, though, I mean, it wasn't Joe Marsh, it was Arnold who basically said, look, other people in Korea have approached me asking if they can sell their team to me. Like, we are probably going to reach a point where in a couple of years, a lot of teams are already somewhat on maintenance mode and they're just kind of like dragging along, trying to extend their lifestyle. And that's part of the problem of franchising. There's no risk and fire underneath your heels to say, okay, you must perform or you're out. We might reach a point where actually the only teams which are putting in the effort probably should have the extra teams over someone else who's just kind of going to be just existing and not really achieving very much. I personally think it's a natural end game actually with the way economically things are going through. And yes, you're talking about like the economic strain of having two teams. If it is more efficient to do so, and there are only 4 or 5 teams in a league which can actually put up rosters anyway, we might reach that point again. Problem is, are we then going to have a mix of teams which can only field one roster and then orgs which can field two because they're financially in a place for that? This is a huge can of worms. I think there is an end game where it has to go to that because we only have like 3 teams in every region which can actually field rosters. But there's just a whole can of worms. Personally, I think we might reach a point where we need to bring them back, but that will bring its own host of options and problems, as we've mentioned.
I think you're crazy, Nightmare, bro. Well, every team is complaining out that they're making no money. Spend more money, bro. Exactly. Dilute your product. You're cooked.
No, and I completely agree. However, I think that there are going to be teams which are bailed. We already have almost every team bailing anyway, like in terms of financially. Already that's happening. I think we're going to reach a point where it has to be just like one team fielding multiple rosters and then floating by on the fact that it's more efficient to field 2 rosters than one and hope that works out. But I think just you go forwards in a couple of years, I think enough orgs will fail that you're going to have an option between sister teams or a load of orgs which are just on maintenance mode dragging their feet. What's your choice?
Here's your 2 examples, 1 for, 1 for against. FIFA, not known for its anti-corruption practices. I think it was through UEFA. In the UEFA Champions League, if an owner has ties to multiple different teams, because they're allowed to own multiple different teams across different leagues, one team isn't allowed to play in Champions League. I believe it's I think it's Chelsea. The Chelsea ownership also has ownership in an Italian team, I think it was. And so because of that, they weren't allowed to play in it.
You're thinking about the Crystal Palace situation, I think.
Oh, that's what it was. Crystal Palace. Yeah.
Yes.
Is it Crystal Palace and Nice? Is that what it is?
It was a French team. Yeah, it was a French team. I can't remember what team, but it was Crystal Palace and a French team. The owner had stake in both, a majority stake in both teams. So I think Crystal Palace ended up having to drop their qualification in to like go play Europa instead.
Okay, here it is. It's Crystal Palace owner John Texter. Owns 43% in Palace and a 77% stake in Lyon. So Lyon, one of the big clubs in France, and Crystal Palace, good story. They won a tournament that qualified them. They won the season-long tournament that qualified them to the Champions League, but they were forced to drop it. So that's the example of, hey, no double ownership, so can't do that. Because if you end up playing against each other, because it is one-offs, mainly it's one-offs. So you have the group stage, but you don't want to have that dilute the pool. Opposite side, you look at F1. F1 is the other one where Red Bull is swapping with Racing Bulls is what they're called, and that one is a pretty direct 1-to-1. But then you have like feeder teams that kind of bounce and forth. For a while, it was Ferrari and Alfa Romeo was the team, so they would kind of feed with each other. It was very unique on how that worked out. But not every team was connected with another team. So it goes back to kind of what you're saying, Nymera, where like we're in a world where maybe T1 has 2 teams and Gen.G has 2 teams. And what is a middle of the road team? Like B&K Fear X, Bank of Busan. They got enough to run B&K Fear X, but they don't have enough to run 2 teams. That would be kind of a situation like that. Go ahead, Nymera.
The other option is bring back promotion relegation. It's the other thing, like if franchising just reaches the point where everyone's on maintenance mode, just bring it back so like five friends can just promote through a league. That's how we got Griffin. It's how we got Rocks Tigers. Maybe this is just the end thing of like a financial downturn. You have to do away with franchising. The money in the scene goes down, and you just bring back the pub teams, which somehow
my 30 million euros that I willingly put into the league.
Can I have some of that 30 million euros, or will that be going into wordless, endless black holes of finance, Yamato? Can I have any of that?
Yeah.
You know what, bros? Let me just say one thing, and this will be a TikTok or whatever app people are gonna be using in 5 years. Like Yamato predicted this. All right. So basically, my conspiracy theory is that Riot is silently just tanking their leagues so that the franchisees have no option but to just bow out, and the top end teams are just biding their time, because there will come a time where we will have super leagues where pretty much tier 2 will become the regional leagues, and that will happen all online, and all the budget will be spent on 6, 7, 8 international tournaments where the biggest teams out of every region are already pre-invited to guarantee T1, Gen.G, Bilibili, G2, KC, and whoever else fuck you want to put in there. And that is going to be where all the budget goes, because in the end, that is what the majority only cares about. And there's going to be Saudi money, there's going to be gambling money, there's going to be stripper money, cocaine money. There's going to be everything to fund those big tournaments. And the tier 2 will just be the local leagues. And those teams can maybe qualify. There's going to be 2-3 slots into those international tournaments. We're just going to have a CS circuit. That's my prediction.
And don't forget the automatic invite for Los Ratones as the best performing team in EMEA Masters.
That's what's up.
The examples that I have here from the 2014 season, it's 3 splits back in the day. OGN was doing it then. In the winter season, the beginning of the year, SK Telecom T1, K and S, those are the names, were both in Group A. Faker's team ended up winning. They went 3-0. And then huge conflict of interest here. Jin Air Falcons and Jin Air Stealths, they both did not make it out of their group. They both went 0-2-1. Now let's go to the spring season. Somehow, SK Telecom T1K and SK Telecom T1S also get put in the same group. Funny enough, Faker and friends make it on out yet again. And then in the summer, it was Incredible Miracle 1 and 2, as Nymera recalled correctly. They were put in the same group. Both did not make it out. And then Najin Black Sword and Najin White Shield both made it out of their group. So there was worlds where that did happen. You had some teams both make it out. Some teams split. Actually, it was just SKT split. And then some teams just suck together like Jin Air, Green Wings, Glad Plane. All right,
goats.
There you go. That was an episode, guys. That was really long. Longer than usual.
I yap a lot. I'm sorry. I really yap.
But we covered a lot across the spectrum here of week 1, across sister teams, biggest moves, most disappointing team so far in week 1. Didn't talk a lot of LCS, which we will be able to do next week as they kick off their season. LCP as well kicking off. And then LPL and LCK back to the grind, along with Yamato getting back into the scrim room, getting the boys ready to get the Los Ratones first win. it has been great. Where can everyone catch you, Yamato? Where do you want people to watch you?
Bro, I don't give a shit right now. I just want to scrim and practice. Catch me on the stage, bitches. Come on now.
I love that.
On Power Spike, I guess. I'm doing. I do like these vlogs on what's going on. I give a little bit behind the scene context. You can check it out on my YouTube. I want to reach that 100K. That would be nice. Get a plaque, put on my wall. That's where I'm at. Yeah.
Yamato.
Personal channel. Yamato on YouTube, Yamato on Twitch, Yamato clips on TikTok. I'm doing a lot more content this year on pro play, covering all the leagues, everything analytical, educational. Trying to really cover a lot of bases here this year. So yeah, catch me live like most days on Twitch. If it's an LPL co-stream, you can find it on YouTube as well.
And this week's guest, Nymera, where are people going to be catching you?
Well, I took Yamato's job as co-host of Summoning Insights. You can catch me on there when that's around. I'll be here every so often. And yeah, my brother and I, Initialize, we do an LPL co-stream on my Twitch channel, which is Nymera with an underscore on Twitch. We also stream on YouTube. We actually stream on 2 places on YouTube, weirdly, as well, because we're also rehosted by Onivia's highlight channels as well. You can catch me there. I do content on TikTok. I do content on YouTube. I am going into full content game while the broadcast world is being very, very difficult right now. If you want to find any updates from me, you can see stuff on my socials like Twitter, which is Nymera. I also have a Discord as well where you can keep up with all the latest Nymera news, I guess.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on the show this week. It was great to have you, and we'll have you throughout the season. Yeah, we'll have you throughout the season. For me, I had to sit down with CEO of the biggest organization in esports, T1, Joe Marsh. We had about an hour and change sit down, getting that edited, and we'll get that posted here on Digan Esports, and I'll tie it into Last for Nation later on. So get some cool insights on how the offseason went and kind of the things that he's accomplished. Especially from last year. Last year was a doozy for him, and we didn't shy away from those questions there. So it'll be a lot of fun. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for coming on and watching. If you haven't already, like and subscribe, and we will see you next week for a brand new episode of Power Spike. Till then, see you later.